Ladies and gentlemen, crack open a beer. We've been waiting all night, but Irish Dota is here. We are back with another season of the Irish Dota League, the league with the largest of hearts and as much unpaid workers as a Dubai shopping mall. I am Runantel alongside Andy here to take you through the first game of Division 1 of this year, which takes place between Wongs Bakery and Skiddys Angels, two of the titans of this league who, when placed next to each other, look rather normal sized, don't we think, Auntie?
Yeah, I'd be very interested in this matchup. I think the teams are quite evenly matched, so it'll be interesting to see how teams are feeling and what teams are drafting going into the start of this season.
What is going on here, Mr. Auntie? Is there a lot of heroes being picked randomly? Is there something going on? Do we not do
Yes,
a
I
captain's mode?
think the lobby might not be in captain's mode, so
Okay, so we're going to have to switch it over for just a sec. My apologies, fans at home. So let's
that's
have a
alright.
quick preview into this game and discuss that a bit while we get that sorted out. So, in terms of these two teams have basically hit each other before in a different league, in the Kobold League, right?
Yes, they have some slightly different players, but these teams have played before. I believe Wongs came out on top in the group stage, but ultimately lost out um, further down in the tournament, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So it ended up being the side of Skiddy's Angels knocking over. Skiddy's Angels famously had a very rough early start to the tournament, and it took them a while to kind of get back on their feet. So we're going to see if perhaps they can do that in this game. Now, keep in mind, a couple of the players of Skiddies are playing less games than they normally do. In particular, I'm thinking of Solar Crest here, a man who normally grinds ranked more than any person I know, a solid 2-3 hours every day. But he is not currently doing that. He's taking a bit of a break from that after a prolonged injury and is slowly turbo moding his way back into the game, but hasn't quite picked up the same amount of games that he previously played. So we're going to see if that has an effect in this game, especially since he is back into that mid lane position away from that pause 4 that he grinded up to his immortal status on.
Yeah, a little bit of rust on both sides. We've also got Kamki returning back from the Wong's stack, who from a short hiatus is now playing again back in this league.
Great to see Kampke back, to be honest. When I heard Wongs were going to be playing without Kampke this season, I was a little disappointed. You know, it doesn't really feel like Wongs without Kampke to a certain extent. He's been a part of them for so long at this point that it feels almost a little strange. So I'm glad to see him back. I am unable to disconnect from this game. So give me just 1 second while I do that. I am stupid. I am stupid. Oh, because I'm unset. Give me just a second. Coming to you in just a moment. Fine. Right. Just a moment. Yeah, so it is a little strange to see him out of the roster, but after trialing a number of different players, I think they wanted to go back to camp here, right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yes, that is right. Few trial players, but I think Kamki's now back after the release of Largo. There was more inspiration to play for Kamki.
Yeah, it's a shame he's not going to be in this game. Reminder, all games in this tournament are going to be done in captain's mode, so you will not see any Largo tonight, and a number of other heroes that have been reworked will also be unavailable as of now. But that isn't an issue anyway. The majority of them aren't really heroes that we see either of these teams play too much, other than Dear Pangolier for Mr. Sky, who he has told me is entirely unplayable in his current state, without a facet to speak of.
Just restarting the lobby real quick here for the
Yeah.
players.
You shoot me past, please, if possible. Can you shoot me the password, please, if possible? Sorry, folks. No, this is exactly the climactic opening we would have liked. They were just Irish donating up right now. First game, clearing out some of those little kinks.
Are you in the
Can you
lobby,
please send me?
Rununtel?
Can you send me the password, please? Thank you very
Okay,
much.
the lobby has started. I'm going to stream in Discord for you.
Okay, fantastic.
Technical issues. It's the first stream of the league. We got a whole lot of new technology, so we're working
Okay.
it out. But we're going to work it out with everyone here. Let's take
Indeed.
a
What
look.
better place to sort it out than on the live broadcast? Let's take a look at what we have
What can you
going
do?
on right here. So, kicking off into this draft stage, immediate bans out on the Timber and on the Void Spirit. Pretty expected. I mean, last season we saw this Void Spirit be banned almost every single game, and Timber is the Shirks classic, right?
Yep, that's Timbersaw respect ban for Shirix and a Void Spirit respect ban for Nagi, respectively. I think the Earth Spirit ban, is that a specialty of Solar Crest now that he's back on support role?
It absolutely is. Now, Solar Crest is actually not back on support role, from what I know. So he's actually sticking in that mid lane position. But from what I've seen so far, he seems to think that Earth Spirit might be viable again in the mid lane where it hasn't been for quite some time. So that's where that ban is coming from. It's followed up then with a ban onto the Spirit Breaker, which would suggest that they're probably going to go for one of, I believe, Nagi's picks quite early on Wongs. Traditionally, Nagy likes to play these playmaking, very mobile mid heroes. Spirit Breaker can be a real pain in the ass, those, particularly when they're trying to snowball off an early advantage.
Yep, I could also expect both teams to be first picking Tusk here. I think that's a hero both teams quite like to prioritize. But it's a
Most
first pick
definitely. I
Tide
think,
Hunter.
ooh, first pick Tide is interesting here. So that is going to be in the hands of Sky. Now, I just like I was saying there, I think oftentimes when people are drafting into Wongs, and the successful drafts that I've seen, they pick a lot of control. Most of Wong's players really like playing these highly mobile heroes, especially in Nagi. We see him on things like the Void Spirits, those Pucks, those Embers. Even if those heroes aren't good in the patch, he's so comfortable on them that he makes them look good. The follow pick from Wongs is the Primal Beast. Now, we saw Shirks trying this out earlier, so good call on him picking up that Primal Beast.
Yep. Shira's a pretty flexible player. I think Wongs tend to rely on a bit of draft flexibility between all their core players. So this Primal Beast could be a Shirix hero, could also be a Nagi hero on the mid lane. So first picking that for the flex. Not sure how well it does against the Tide with the Kraken Shell to dispel. And Tide being a pretty strong hero at the moment. I think slightly nerfed in the last patch because he was crazily overtuned.
For sure. Nice to see that the Primal Beast will have that break coming off that Aghanim Scepter. Could be quite important versus the Tide here, right?
Yeah, certainly if we get later into the game, it's going to be big for taking down this big watermelon.
Indeed, it will be. Wait on this next pick. I think you are right in saying that the Tusk is high pro for both teams. Interesting ban here out from Wongs. They ban out the Wind Ranger. That is something we've seen Maniac practicing quite a lot on that pause 4 position. So I'm a little surprised to see it banned out when they have that next pick. But that could speak towards the fact that they really want the Tusk here. And they're telling Skiddy's Angels, ban the Tusk or we're going to take it.
So this Wind Ranger is a Reese ban for sure. I think Reese, most known
Mm,
for the Rubik and Wind Ranger, I'd say are his top two heroes played.
yeah,
And I think they want
that
to
skipped
get
my
him onto
mind.
something a bit more, brain on, like force him to think about his moves. I think this Wind Ranger hero is quite relaxing on the 4 roll.
Yeah, those little assassinates make it quite easy, and I could also see it a hero that could be quite annoying for Primal Beast insofar as even if he runs on you, you have that wind run to be able to make that distance if needs be. So could see it being quite good in lane into him. So perhaps that is why they've chosen to take it out here. And they take out another Reese hero here, the Dark Willow, Reese's normal secondary hero that we see him on.
Yeah, both teams also love this hero. It's another Maniac hero as well, so unsurprised to see it banned, but I feel like this is now setting up for the certain Tusk pick. And I'd be
Indeed, it
surprised
has
if
to
we
be,
don't
right?
see it, but
And it's not. It's a ringmaster pick, and I believe that that is played both 4 and 5 for Wongs. I've seen Maniac play that in recent games. It's a weird 4 if it is a 4. I presume it's going into the 5 row for Kamki, right?
again, with the Wong's draft, they're keeping it flexible. They can flex this to either support. If Primal Beast is off lane, then it's a great 4 to support him. If the Primal goes mid, then it's a great 5 to play in lane with Coral with a more defensive carry. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Again, I don't think it's amazing versus Tide, so we'll see how they kind of answer this frontliner with the rest of their heroes.
One thing that I'm thinking of right now is perhaps what both teams are trying to do is they might both be trying to bait out this Tusk. They have two pause threes that are happy to play into a melee pause four. So perhaps what both of them are doing here is saying, okay, if you want to pick that Tusk, we know we both want it. You're either going to have to play it into a tide that's going to make that little right clicks coming out from the tag team less effective, or you're playing into a Primal Beast that can do quite a lot of damage to it if he's stuck next to it, and the tiny is an next pick. I think that might be a mid. So I think that might be a four tiny potentially, but we have seen it coming back into the mid lane with the popularity of Phylactery this patch.
Yeah, I think I can see this being for this game. It's quite disruptive for Primal Beast in the mid game to just stop his, charges in. You can stop the running around, throw him away. Because Tide is such a stalwart laner, then you can kind of pick these weird fours that don't really need to do much. Free him up, and we will see the Lich as a pos 5 as well. I'm not sure we've seen much Lich recently.
Yeah, so the one unknown quantity on the side of Skiddy's Angels, the one hero, sorry, one player we haven't seen much before is this PAYYD guy. So I believe that he is the replacement for a Voxo on the stack, who previously played as part of this team for their roster for Kobold. Perhaps this is one of his specialties. I can see Lich being good this patch insofar as, right, the whole kind of strand of this patch is Tangos being less effective means that these fives that are nuki are more effective. On that basis, I could see Lich being kind of good as a consequence, right?
Yep, certainly it's always been a strong laner, but not quite as strong a laner as that Viper pick, I would say.
Brother,
Yeah, this is a bit of a scary draft from Wong's Bakery, and that is an answer to the Tide Hunter now, a direct answer with the break on the ult.
what position? Now I know they're being incredibly flexible right now. We've got Russian gymnasts on the draft for the side of Wong's Bakery, but if you're gonna guess, it doesn't feel like a Nagi hero to me.
I would
It's
tend
too
to
few
agree.
buttons.
I
It feels
think
like
this has
a
got to be a
Shirks
Shearer's
hero.
hero. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I
Um,
could see the kind of like Shira is the kind of guy where if he gets an advantage on Viper and ha-has you all late. I could kind of see that being his vibe, right?
Certainly, and this now sets up for a melee pos 4 pick. So if they do finally decide to pick up this Tusk for Lunatic, I think they're going to be pretty happy with their position in the draft.
Yeah, definitely liking their draft more going into this fourth pick. In terms of supports that you pick into the Viper, assuming this tiny isn't the support, which it could still be, I'm going to assume it's probably mid. I think, oh, let's see what they go for. And it is the Weaver instead.
Yep, almost certainly carry for Coral, supplying some ranged physical DPS into the disruptive power of the Primal Beast on the front line.
But again, could also be flexed for. Like, this is the strange thing about this Wong's draft so far is that it's so flexible that it's really hard to predict. And I quite like that because it's putting Skiddy's Angels in quite a hard position in terms of how they counterpick. And the pick they go for it, most popular carry of the patch, with the exception of PL, it's the Clinks.
Yeah, kind of fits in the same vein as the Weaver, so both drafts kind of mirroring really in terms of what they want to achieve in a team fight. They've got this one guy that can go in, pop some big stuns in an AoE, and then this ranged carry that just needs to nuke any hero they find with the stuns.
Skiddy's Angels ban out the Puck, the Void Spirit, and the Ember. So looking at the pool of Nagi, the big one that sticks out that's still available is the Invoker, if he's not the Primal Beast. But I assume that's him in the Primal Beast. We are probably still waiting on that Maniac hero, the Pause 4 hero coming out. Are any Pause 4s sticking out for you from what Maniac plays? Like, off of my docs, what I'm thinking right now, he has really favored things like the Shaman in the past. I've seen him toying around with Alchemist 4 recently. I'm kind of interested to see if that's something he can pull off here.
It could work. I don't hate it. I think there's some good agonyms on the Wong's Bakery heroes, and it's a playable lane with the Viper. Not the best synergy, but has some later synergy with the Weaver. They could
The
pull it out, but
minus
I've
armor is nice for securing Roche as well, right?
yeah, yeah, would enable their Roche with the Weaver a little bit extra, but I would be very disappointed to not see the Tusk at this juncture, really.
It's interesting Skinny's Angels are still banning out mid heroes though,
It's
after the
very
reveal
interesting.
of the Weaver Viper Primal. Reese clearly, like, Reese is probably the most experienced drafter of these entire 10 players. And the fact that he assumes that's still the mid is kind of throwing me for a loop here.
Look, it could be incredibly wacky mind games where it's Shira's Primal Beast with Lunatic Viper 4, and then
Oh,
they're
I wish
picking
that would be savage.
a mid hero, which uh, seems with their bans like that's what they think's happening. Um, Potentially they're just protecting that scenario with these bans in case Nagi decides this is actually just a completely 1v9able game for me. I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, as would I. Skinny's Angels, actually, both teams potentially prioritizing the Pause 4 pick as their final pick. I mean, the Reese hero, we are still waiting to see it.
Yeah,
A
unless it's
few
the
things
tiny,
in
but
his pool.
still could be.
Could be more popular mid this patch though, and definitely a Solar Crest hero would lead me to believe it's probably going to be Solar mid on the tiny, but of course, could always be the four.
It's a rough game for a tiny. I think they might be better pushing it to four, and I think because they're banning mid heroes in this last phase, that kind of signals to me we're thinking of picking our own mid hero.
Mm. And in terms of Solar Crest mid heroes that are popular right now, there's not that many left in the pool that he is particularly comfortable on. No big Solar Crest heroes stick out to me right now. I mean, traditionally, he likes playing heroes that aren't traditional mid laners. The Rubik being a favorite of his, probably not coming out here. The Hoodwink Pause 4, there's the Reese hero that I forgot about. And it is going to be mid tiny.
Okay, I mean, if they can make this work, then great. I think Tiny's going to have a bit of a rough lane depending on how this Wong's last pick goes. It probably lanes fine into the Primal Beast mid, um, but I don't think a Tiny with a quick Blink Dagger is going to accomplish too much on this map unless it's on the Weaver.
Yeah, it feels like it's quite a hard game to be effective on Tiny when you have the Viper being able to secure anyone who's going up against, when you have the Ringmaster able to box people, he's fast enough, and we know Kampke has the experience of that hero. It's not an ideal pick in any sense in this game. Waiting for that last pick from Wongs, and this is the one where everything will start making sense. Was this an almighty ruse, or was it as we predicted? It could just be a Tusk. It is still unbanned.
I mean, yeah, this pick crucial to how the rest of the league is going to go, I'd say, with how Wongs are drafting. But yeah, the classic flexible style. I do like the Hoodwink pickup. This double nuke support duo from Skiddys can maybe supplement the fact that Tiny's going to struggle a bit more within the mid game. They can maybe roam together or just duo off with the Tiny. And oh
And the
dear,
Brood Mother for
oh dear, oh
Coral. Here
dear.
we go. Is that a four Weaver or a four Viper? It has to be a four Reaper. It's Nagi mid on the Viper. It's Shirks on the Primal Beast. It's Coral on the Brood. And it is the four Weaver, which we've seen Maniac play in previous leagues.
I know Nagi probably isn't going to like playing Viper, but I know that guy likes winning more than enjoying his hero. So we'll see a Viper game out of him. Coral last pick Brood. I mean, it's certainly been a thing to consider in the past when playing against Wongs, the banning out the Brood. Not sure if it's top of the meta right now, but if it's a free Brood game and Coral's decided it is, then it's a very scary option for them.
Is it though? Like, you've got a mid tiny who can cleave up those spiders. You've got a tide who will build into that anchor. Normally, when I see Coral Brood, it puts a shiver in my spine from about 2 years ago when it ran over the league. But I don't love it this game.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's 1v9 instant win Brood pick, but if Coral thinks it's good enough, potentially just thinks it's a good enough matchup into the Clinks, where the Clinks can't really accomplish anything in the fights, then maybe having this Tide Hunter and Tiny is not so crucial. Or even the Spiderlings, maybe you don't mind if they get killed if you can just man fight the Clinks with the Insatiable Hunger.
And it is a hero that can always gap close onto that clinks. The question is if it can kill it in that initial burst when it's playing into things like that Lich Armor, when it's playing things like the Hoodwink. Up until last pick, I was heavily favoring Wongs, but I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate here and say that I actually like the Skitty's Angels draft more because although I have a lot of faith in the Coral Broodmother, I know he plays it really well. I just don't love it against what the side of Skitties have.
So I can tell you from the new Maloo stats, thank you to Imprint as well, that the Coral Brood is currently 3-0, so 100% win rate. We'll see if that continues this season.
Yeah, will he drop his first ever game? Folks, a reminder, this is game one of Division 1 of the Irish Dota League in 2026, and this is our opening game of the tournament. Let's see some hype in the chat. Let's see two of our biggest name teams, our second and third highest MMR overall average teams at the tournament, battling it out in this game. What's your prediction for game one?
I would love to see a Wongs win. I think they've been on the downward trend for a little bit. I think they've had some issues to work out. I'd love to see them take a win. But this is a best of two, I believe, in the group stage. So I'd love to see
Mm-hmm.
a 1-1 just for the storyline, really.
I think a 1-1 for the storyline is the vibe I'm hoping for too. But Solar Crest, X June, me, Otteray June, but too shit to play in the main teams. There's a bit of a connection there. Both players who are deemed no longer fit for purpose.
Look, our bias this series averages out, so I think the chat will
Yeah,
be
I think
completely
so.
happy.
We should lean into it in game two and just be entirely biased for the duration of the game and see how that goes. Nagy has the 1v9 tag again, the classic at the end. Let's see if that's true of this Viper this game. One thing we haven't talked too much about this game, gonna be a very rough mid lane playing Tiny into Viper, right?
Yes. You potentially start pulling waves at level 3 and beyond, or you can ask your supports, please come mid and kill this Viper for me. But that's very much dependent on how these side lanes go, so we'll have to see how these matchups work out. Brood into Tide, I think potentially in the more recent years of Dota is actually Brood favored.
Mm.
So we'll have to see how that goes.
It's interesting to see the Brood picked up here. Ooh, a lot of damage there. Clicked immediately onto that core Brood. I think one of the reasons Brood is getting so... Oh, Fish almost goes down to those bugs. He lives on
Very
about
low.
10 HP after that initial go. Extremely low. Needs to be very careful on that Kling in these learning circumstances. But seems like an unusual twist for this patch in which I know every single offlaner is extremely miserable. Both offlanes doing quite well.
Well, for now, it looks like Sky might be getting a little bit zoned as the sustain comes through from the Brood.
Of course, the
As top
sustain and the
lane
brew particularly important. Oh, top lane. Fish gets a kill onto Maniac.
steps up a little too far, and the two level 2s on the Clinks and the Lich is just enough nuke damage as bot lane. Double stun out from
Indeed,
Reese.
really good use there of the Bushwhack and Reach catching both these heroes. A lot of harass coming out onto Coral, and Coral still being level 1, not able to heal up yet. Using that insatiable hunger, does manage to get the level 2, I imagine, off this wave, which will help his sustain and lane quite heavily. But the lane we haven't focused on yet, if we could pivot over towards this
Yeah,
mid
let's
lane
take
for
a
just a
look.
moment, it's looking pretty hard for Solar so far. He's at a 5-0 to 8-3 on the Viper, so CS definitely not going his way so far, but at least able to secure up that water room bottom here.
Yeah, not terrible so far, but it always gets a lot worse after the Viper level 3. We'll see how he
Mm.
handles that lane, whether he does try and drag waves or some other option.
What I'm
Bot
most
lane, another
interested to see
kill.
is, oh, bottom lane, another kill, this time onto Kamki, an early kill here for Sky underscore, and a really nice one for him to pick up there in terms of progressing. The CS chart definitely going so far in favor of the side of Wong's Bakeries, but the kills being picked up from the side of Skiddies have somewhat equalized this laning stage so far.
Big wave in the top under the tower, maybe an opportunity to dive, but that's a lot of damage dissuading Lunatic there.
Yeah, really nice play there from Fish, temporarily going away from last inning just to make sure that he harasses them to the extent where he can't try force a play. and it shows in his inability to actually do anything here. But he goes for the gush here onto Kamki. They want to fight for this little gummy bear, but now it's Sky underscores in some trouble, taking a lot of right clicks out from Coral. But with the use of that Kraken shot, he's able to stay right for back. He's used the insatiable hunger, but is caught up against that tree, so is unable to chase down Sky. Now it's Reese in some trouble, taking some right clicks, but is able to walk away from that one. But a very positive trade for the safe lane of Wong's Bakery.
Yeah, but on the other side of the map, it looks like another skirmish for the Lotus has caused the Lich to lose his life.
Indeed. So starting to pull out a little bit ahead in this laning stage for the side of Wongs, especially in that mid lane where we're now looking at 7 denies and 19 last hits on this Viper. But so far, channeling it a little bit. Sodercrest has For Him in his name. Who do we think is him? Is it a Voxo?
I would assume so after dropping a Voxer from the roster.
Indeed, right clicks coming out here onto Paid. One more right click, so it's going to need. He goes down to the bug of Lunatic Fish being charged down here by Lunatic. One right click, so it's going to need to kill Lunatic. Will he go down? He is, but he's more than happy with that one. Both players from the safe lane on the side of Skiddys Angels going down at this top skirmish.
Yeah, very nice for this off lane, pulling it back after a couple rough first few waves here.
We have a couple messages in the chat I want to bring reference to. A first-time chatter, Lee Healy, saying, damn, Daniel Marino is a kip. If you're referring to the university, yes. If you go there, you did ordinary maths. And we also have a big imprint shout-out from PK. He is happy anytime they're mentioned because they can put that in their portfolio when they're applying for more government funding. Looking into this top lane, Shirks starting to boss it here. 23-7 into the Clinks' 19-2. In fact, all three lanes so far starting to pull away in favor of the side of the Wong's Bakery.
Yes, and Solarcrest retiring to the jungle a bit here. Going to make some stacks for himself, but without a few levels, it's pretty hard for Tiny to take them efficiently.
So Wong's definitely taking a sizable early lead here, but that would be what's expected from the kind of heroes you pick. You know, when you pick a Weaver 4, when you pick a Viper mid, when you pick a Brumo, you're expected to win these lanes, right?
Yeah, I think that's what their plan was going into this. I mean, you see the Tide first pick, you have quite a lot of drafts to be able to decide how you're countering that. And if they're going for strong lanes, then it's certainly paying off as the lead is slowly increasing for them.
Looks like they're trying to make a little bit of a go at the insatiable hunger. All that's done within the end is that he gets a little bit of healing here on Coral. So nice escape there from Sky underscore. But so far, as we've said, still only 1k between the two teams. But this is going to be a very comfortable pickup of both of those gummy bears here. Sky underscore walks towards it menacingly, but that's all he can really do. So Shirks gets in the top lane, and Nat Kamki gets it in this bottom lane. So a nice little exchange there. Lunatic's taking some right here from PAYYD, who has been unable to really get away into this game so far on the Lich, unable to exert much pressure into the highly mobile lane. But Shirks goes for a bit of an aggressive go here and takes a lot of damage there consequentially and will be forced away. He is passed over that gummy bear, which means that he is going to heal up quite considerably. And Fish now actually out-leveling Shirks.
Yeah, the game still remains reasonably even. I think most of the net worth discrepancy comes from the Tiny having the roughest lane against the Viper.
Being said, you know, in terms of how bad this lane could have gone, the fact that Solarcrest hasn't died so far in particular and is keeping somewhat parity with most of the cores of the game, you know, he's only a solid 7 or 8 behind. As good as it probably could have gone for him, especially considering we saw no support rotations from either side.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's got as much CS as he has, more than the Tide Hunters managed to accrue, or was for the last 10 seconds of the game.
Pastor Curse, bro. As soon as you say it, he gets 3 last hits. Fish being gone on here, hit up with that blood grenade. They go the damage instead on the PAYD, decide they don't think they can kill Fish, but the teleport comes in from Reese. He doesn't connect there with the stun, which allows Shirks to escape from this when he gets a second bosh onto him. Solarcrest is here. They are going to get Lunatic here at least. A nice free kill for them, and it gets them a little bit more damage, and they do pop the glyph there as the Viper knocks on the door of that tier 1. Now Reese and Solar Crest rotating in towards this mid lane. They could try and make it go onto the Viper. The Viper has spotted this movement off the back of his vision, and Nagi recognizes that something is afoot and gets out of there. But still a nice kill there to pick up. Might be a skirmish here over this 8-minute room, but no. Just a nice arcane secured for the Tiny. Reese gets hit, though, with the Viper Strike. He's broken. Does get hit with the stun there, though, on the Viper, which means he won't still get out. There's still enough damage off the back of this, but doesn't feel like the side of Skiddys Angels have the damage to take this engagement, especially with that Hoodwink dead. So now a dive in a tower from the Primal Beast. PAYD taking a lot of damage, pops that stick to stay alive for now. Solar Crest in the back line is being ran down by the Weaver. TPM from Fish. Fish has a lot of damage. He could turn this one. Shirks could be in some trouble here. Right is coming up, but with the use of that onslaught, he stays perfectly alive. And Lunatic also walking away from this one. They do only get the Lich off the back of quite a lot of devotion there. Nagi, though, is still alive, and Lunatic still throwing out these bugs. A great mid stare down that results in just the death of the support.
Yeah, I think you're very happy with this move as Wongs. You forced the carry to rotate for effectively nothing there. The Klink's wasting quite a lot of his time to farm in what would have been a free lane as everyone was middle.
Now, I know Wongs hate when I say this. It's their least favorite thing that I say. But you know when they're best?
Are you going to say it's
when
they're full protect 1?
It's when they're 4 protect 1. And tell me I'm wrong. They're making so much space in this mid lane for Koro, who's been left essentially untouched, and he's 65 and 18. Koro, don't hate me, Wongs. Love you guys. I think the best player in Wong's Bakery, if given space to do so. He has the ability to 1v9, perhaps
Ravage.
even more than the guy 1v9 in his name. But Sky throws out the Ravage. Koro hit up as well with this Avalanche. TP's coming in, but in comes the Satiable Hunger. And now this isn't going to be a kill, so it's a wasted Ravage. And potentially a mid-Tiny going down. The Viper strikes on top of him. Down goes Solar Crest. A disaster of a play. Sky underscore is able to walk away from that one, but that's all he can do.
I think you're really feeling how the Tiny's struggling to get into this game. We did mention that even with a Blink Dagger and he's going for, the Phylactery first, he's going to struggle to get kills on these cores.
Yeah, I mean, the Cornucopia is nice for him to rush early, which No Leaves is noting in the chat in terms of just being able to sustain these lanes, but we see bottom what happens when you go towards those more sustaining items. You just can't burst these people down. He is obviously going to build that into a Phylactery, but I think until he has that, he just lacks the damage to kill anyone other than Ringmaster and Weaver.
Yeah, you can see both Nuka supports now setting mid for their level 6. I mean, the Reese level 6 on Hoodwink is going to be crucial for finishing off these kills. If he had it there, that would have been a dead brood.
I think as well, something that we haven't noted here is that the Tidehunter, a lot of spread damage off that ultimate, but the rest of the heroes, before you get 6 on Lich, before you get a few more levels or a few more items on Hoodwink, before you any time on Klinks, very solo hero oriented. So that spread damage in the fights is needed. So I think also they might be looking for the 6 on PAYYD, and we see him leeching some XP here on the top lane to get towards that.
Yeah, these support nukes are going to be crucial for Skiddys Angels to get back into this game, to try and dissolve some of this lead that Wongs are building up.
So far, a 2k lead in 11 minutes. Not absolutely game busters, but definitely a nice solid lead for the side of Wong's Bakery, and not the start to this game or to this league that you would like if you're a Skiddys Angels fan.
Yeah, I mean, both teams warming back up, so I think over the course of the game we'll see them tighten up their plays, but Wong's feeling fresh. They're moving as a group up to this top lane.
Yeah, PAYYD teleporting out immediately. Good game Simpson there. Will he connect here with the charge? Whoop! Drunk Driver. Shirks just doesn't get there in time. He is able to get away in the Lich. Very heads up play there from the Lich to recognize that movement. About less than half a second away from being caught out there.
Picks up Haste on Solar Crest. Doesn't have a bottle, just went straight raw for the Phylactery.
Viper's TPing in though. There could be some trouble here for the Viper, but instead
Klinks.
he throws out the ult onto the Klinks. The Klinks instead now going to be trouble. In comes the Wheel of Wonder. The level 6 on Kamki enables the kill onto Fish. That's the second rotation from the Klinks, and last time he got nothing, and this time he got less than nothing.
Nice stun out from
Meanwhile,
Reese,
top lane
cancelling the
Reese.
charge.
Really nice cancel there on the charge, but still could be in some trouble. Sky underscore is coming in, but there's no Ravage on him. And as such, oh, here it comes. It's off cooldown. He pops it. It only lands onto Lunatic, who then hits him with the tip. And now he's being charged onto by this Perma Beast. Here comes the onslaught. In comes that stop, stop, stop. Down goes Sky underscore. A calamity of errors, doubling the net worth advantage so far
Lunatic's
for the
doing a lot
side
of
of Wong's
damage.
Bakery. Lunatic taking down PAYYD. One more right click, so he's going to need. Goes under the tower with that Shikuchi, and he is caught out here on the Lich. One more right click. There he goes. It's a 3-for-0 with the Ravage used.
I mean, you saw the tip come out there. I love that Shira's just waited on the high ground for this Hoodwink to use the ult to jump back up there. Very cheeky play. I'm sure Reese was taken aback by that. But wow, what a turnout in this top lane. 2v3. And a tower to boot.
A quick shout out to the chat. Thank you so much to Taylor Dota and to Imprint PK for resubscribing to the stream. For every single subscription that you give, a Run and Tell moves one step forward towards one day being paid. So we thank you deeply, Auntie, as well. The two of us. One day, Auntie, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. We'll see how it goes as Coral wants to get paid with XP, but so does Fish.
And Fish is caught out immediately
Nice
with that dust hit up with those bugs as well. The damage is huge. The Lich Ult comes out onto Nagi, but it's bouncing between the spiders, so it's doing nothing here. And Fish, once again, shows for half a second and dies immediately there afterwards. Lunatic is being chased down by Sky, but Sky doesn't have the items to keep Lunatic in place right now. So Lunatic just runs through him as a flame almost. They do have the wards down, but it's not enough to stop him. So it's another free kill onto this Lich while the Brood continues to ball out of control. Can we flick over to net worth, please, if possible, Mr.
We
Anthony?
can.
And look at that. Almost 8k net worth on that Brood. Holy moly.
Yep, feeling pretty good if you're Coral in this game. I mean, failed attempts on your life during the late laning stage must instill quite a lot of confidence.
Indeed, and in games like this, that confidence is so important. In those 2-game series where you don't have much time to, gather your thoughts, really think about what's gone on so far, it can really make a difference in those series too. And I have to say, I wasn't believing in this Brood, even though I knew how good Core was on it. But now seeing it with this Phylactery, I think it changes the Tide matchup ginormously.
Yeah, very popular item at the moment, Phylactery. I suppose a lot of heroes are just being picked purely around that. Find in the top lane by Shurix.
Blink reveal here from Shurax, jumps immediately onto Fish. Fish shows in the map, but once again, Fish is dead as soon as he shows in the map every single time this game. Solar tries to go in to make a combo onto Shurix, but Shurix simply walks away. They do have the ult on Reese, but he misses. Not connecting there with the assassinate. That good try, little bro, comes out from Shurix, and things going from bad to worse for the side of Skiddys Angels.
They might find more. Reese walks into a Lunatic, and that's never something you want to be doing.
Indeed he does, and the boots of travel on Nagi means that he's straight up here, ready to pressure a tower out of this. Another quick shout out in the chat. We have Rob Mist, one of the greatest offlaners in UK history, I've been told. Was that offlaner? I don't know, Miss. We love you, and thank you so much for that subscription. We really appreciate it here, folks. We are a volunteer organization that does our best with limited resources. So we appreciate every time you do that. But meanwhile, Blink in comes from the Prone Beast, lands immediately onto the Lich. The Lich, not a chance of anything to do here. Sky goes to the Ravage, but there's no one else there, Sky, which means that there's nothing that can follow him up now. And his mana has been expended almost entirely, which means that he's now left to be kited and smited, chopped down on the Tidehunter. It's been a rough game for Sky so far. Reese does get off the assassin. Oh, Sharks jumps in front of that shot, stops Lunatic getting shot. Get down, Mr. President, he says, and not even a crumb for the side of Skiddys Angels.
I mean, what great team playing cohesion we're seeing out from Wongs straight out of the gate here. Diving on top of that bullet for your Phosphor Weaver. I mean, it's brave, but it really looks like it's just desperation moves and ultimates coming out from the Skiddys Angels boys. Missing a few key spells and just going in one by one. It's not feeling great. Solid does have a blink though. Finds Lunatic.
He does. Finds Lunatic. A lot of damage coming out onto him. Could finish him off here. Is the first kill? No! He gets him. Okay. Copium. For all of the skiddiers in the chat, a bit of copium. First kill in quite some time. Let's see if they can work it into more. That blink is going to be very important, but God, that brood has 10k. Can we look at her item build for just a second here?
We can. Just building towards the manta,
Oof.
so nothing too scary, but still quite a lot of net worth.
The Manta as well, just making the Lich even less effective than he had been previously. I mean, there's one thing that we didn't focus on the draft in terms of this late brood pick was the idea that it renders a lot of the Lich's team fight far less effective than previous.
Yes, they are going to have to clear out those spies if they want to drop a good Lich ult, but potentially they can find a Lich ult on a hero other than the Brood. Solar Crests, they find him.
He's caught here
He
with
breaks the
that Ethan.
smoke.
He tries to teleport, but they just cue him immediately. He's just dead. Solar's in mode despair, man. Would you like me to do an impression of what their call sounded like right there?
You know, I was certainly thinking how would we work our way up to impressions during this game. I was thinking, you know, some maybe Australian and Irish would go well. So yes, I'd love to hear the comms right now.
So all you hear is Arnar. And then down he went. Speaking of Will, PAYYD, who, from what I can tell in the chat, is from Leopardstown, is really, really struggling in this game to have some effectiveness on the Lich. If you are truly from Leopardstown, as Mikey Grimm says, as a fellow D14 brethren, a warrior of the South Side, I am sending all my love. May Brian O'Driscoll and Johnny Sexton be with you in this trying time. We also have Mr. Jesse James asking if Runnintel is coming in from World War II. I don't know what that means. I'm confused.
Potentially mic quality?
Probably a mic issue. I'm not sure. Have I flipped over?
Check
Let
that
me
you're
double
not on the
check.
wrong mic, and then we will continue.
That is... Yeah, let me real quick check that, because otherwise the entire show has been ruined.
I mean, I've heard you
Oh,
fine,
for the love
so...
of God, I am sorry. That is bad. Yep. Thank you for the heads up, guys. Thank you no one else for saying that for the entirety of the game. Yeah, I was surprised no one else mentioned for the entirety of the game. That was on my webcam mic for the last 40 minutes. God loves a technical issue right at the start of the tournament, huh?
Look, we're working them all out. First game of the league. We're getting rid of all of them, so no more.
Thank you so much for the heads up there. Yeah, we do get a kill though in the meantime. Fish does take out Kamki, so some valuable gold going his way. And Fish staying relatively decently high in the net worth despite the 10k advantage for the side of Wongs.
Looks like Solar with the DD is going to go in. Finds himself a Weaver.
Indeed he is. Caught onto the Weaver, throws out that toss as well, chops him down. 2 kills in fast succession for the side of Skiddys. Is the throw happening?
We can only hope that this game goes for another 60 minutes, Runnintel.
That would not be like either of these teams whatsoever. Games going unnecessarily long, I have never seen that from either of these teams, and I find such a suggestion absolutely scandalous, quite frankly.
If we do take a peek over towards the net worth, the lead that Coral's Brood had is slowly training down.
It seems like it is, and to be fair, Broodmother as a hero hits this spike around the next 4 or 5 minutes. They're going to have to do quite a lot with it, or else, you know, as much as Solar Crest is extremely poor and his item build suggests mode despair, he will be able to deal with that Brood the later we go into this game.
Let's take a look here. He's hiding in the trees once again.
Indeed he is, all hidden up. Shirks is walking towards him though. Lunatic is here. Lunatic is trying to scout out that Roshan. Shirks is going to spot Solar here if he's not careful, but they drew the Lich behind them and no Brood to speak of as of now. Down goes that. Kamki being caught out immediately now by Solar instead. Hit up with the damage here. But out comes the ult from the Shirks, but the Lich ult doesn't connect to anyone, but it's enough. Fish takes out Shirks. A nice couple minutes here for the side of Skiddy's Angels.
Kamki's in trouble again.
Indeed he is. Down he goes. Double kill for Fish, who's now knocking on the net worth door of that Broodmother.
And speaking of the Broodmother, the Ravager's dropped as well.
Yeah, it's dropped on its head. One or two right clicks. All it's going to take, and suddenly triple kill for Fish. Skiddy's Dangers are back in this one. The Aghanim Scepter finished up from Sky underscore as well. So the pressure being able to put out in these team fights from those long distances now going to be significantly higher. A 3.5k exchange almost in those couple of minutes.
Yeah, not feeling so good now on Wong's Bakery. This Clinks hero, there might be a reason he's top 3 heroes of the patch right now, first pick material.
Yeah, it feels like the side of Wongs. You know, they went to the Vatican, they bought their Evian, and they got themselves a nice big bottle of Throwly water. And they have been sipping it in these last couple of minutes, and off some really nice plays, though it has to be said, from the side of Skiddy's Angels.
Nice
Kamki, ooh! Such a pretty little play there, being able to jump away from that. We do get a Yule's finished up here for the Tiny, a nice pickup. Both couriers running under the tower. Kamki knows he might be in danger. Sky's Quelling Blade dies on the way back. But I think he can over that one.
Shame, yeah, shame for that one. Looks like they might try and defend this bot tower on Wong's. Lunatic teleporting into the front lines.
Yeah, they do manage to catch the bug out on Sky, but they only catch onto Sky, and he's got a lot of heroes behind him, so this isn't a hero you can pressure into. Kamki is trying to do what he can to stay alive here. The break and the assassinate is thrown out immediately onto the Viper. Meanwhile, the Brood sitting at the left side of the map, unable to connect with his teammates, but looking at the movements of this Tiny and this Lich, it seems like they're not going to connect just quite yet.
Full dispersal from Skiddy's Angels from this bot lane. They are respecting Wong's Bakery.
Indeed they are, but we've gone from a 12k lead to a 5k in quite quick succession, and I think the biggest gainer from this might not be the Clinks, I think it's the Tidehunter. Sky is back in this game.
Looking pretty tanky here.
Very tanky and getting some quite good items online. He has that Aghanims, and now this is the item I was waiting for. The Shard is coming out for the Tide.
Yeah, great for locking down Primal Beast, Weaver, and Brood. What a brilliant Tide Shard game. As we see a smoke out from Wongs. Broken by Sky.
Indeed, but Sky puts his big fat ass in the way of them. You know, you're a Tidehunter. You just stand between the two. He hits up with the bugs, which is going to make this quite problematic for him. He is in trouble here. The Wheel of Wonder, this might be more than they bargained for. They're throwing out the damage. He does throw out the Ravage, but the Brood still had the BKB active, which means they couldn't quite burst them in the duration of that. They throw out the stun as well from this Hoodwink. It also doesn't connect. It's a 2 for 0 so far. Looks like it's going to be a 3 for 0. Solarcrest dives down here on that Tiny. They say, we don't care about your lead. We're going to take this fight. We're going to take that Roche. And now Reese, looking like he's in some trouble here, has the Hunter's Boomerang if he wants to try and get away from this one. But it's going to be very difficult indeed with the Spider on top of him as well as the Boog. And the combination of those two things is too much for him to handle. And Wong's Bakery regain their advantage in this game and look set to be able to take quite an easy Roche off the back of that fight.
Yep, the double BKB timing worked brilliantly for them. I was a bit nervous when Shurix instantly popped and altered the tide that they'd just kite the fight on Skiddy's Angels, but the Wong's hero is able to close in on all of these heroes. Looks like they might smoke up and try and contest this Roche, which seems very strange with no Ravage.
Yeah, they need to do it quite quickly. They have no blink on Sky either, so it looks like this Roche is just dead. And now Sky was in some trouble. Hit up by Shirk straight away. Jumped upon by Nagi as well with that ultimate. Lunatic throws out the bug onto him. The smoke comes out. Almost dead here on Sky underscore. But meanwhile, look at the ginormous toss coming from Solar Crest in the backlines. Knocks out Sky in his place. Nice there at the E-Blade. Is able to dodge away from the fear. But now Solar Crest is the one going down, so they feed a pause 3 and a pause 2 for just a pause 3, and it looks like the Lich is now up shit creek paddleless, pops out that Glimmer Cape, down goes the ward. Lunatic always carries detection. Nice stun though onto Lunatic. Fish chops him in his place. The damage in this Clinks is ginormous, so it ends up being a 2 for 2, but definitely a 2 for 2 favoring the side of Wongs.
I think both teams just need to calm down a bit. I know it's IDL Season 6, it's one of the greatest leagues to ever do it, but I mean, it's a big game of Throwsy at the moment.
It is one of the leagues of all time indeed, and so far looking like quite a sizable lead for the side of Wongs. They were looking a bit shaky for a while, but they're pulling it back now. They capture that outpost, and they start to pressure that tier 2 mid.
Yeah, with the double BKBs, that's allowed them to now claim this first Roshan of the game, and with a couple minutes on that, potentially they'll look at taking some high ground, but it's a pretty tough high ground fight once the ults are back up for Skiddy's Angels.
Even before that, the amount of clear they have between that acorn on the hoodwink and as well as that tide agonyms that just wipes those spiders. I think that might be where a lot of Sky underscores net worth advantage back into this game is coming from. He's just immediately able to wipe those out of the game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, is physical damage Tide's Q? It is magical, so they could consider
It's
picking up a
magical.
pipe on one of the heroes on Wongs. Wouldn't be the
Feels like a
worst
natural
idea.
build in for Shirks, but he's going for the Aghanim Scepter instead. He wants the break into the Tide perhaps instead.
Yeah, I think that's reasonably important as well against a couple of these heroes, and mostly the Tide. I wonder if Nagi on the Viper would ever consider it, but that's maybe too supportive an item for him. Still needs to pick up his own BKB.
DD does. That BKB going to be really important when he does get it. The Viper we've seen these last couple of fights has struggled, but Koro's hit up there with the Boomerang as well as the Assassinate coming out. Tries to pop the Manta, but is still hit up by it.
On the back
Is forced away
lines,
there. Solar Crest clears the way, but Shirks catches him with the ultimate. Solar is having a mare of a game here on the Tiny. Forced to build the Yules, and even with that, unable to find a way into this game. Unable to find a chop down here.
that might be enough for Wongs to try and push this tier 2 up to the high ground.
Might just be that the one good thing about Solar Crest's low net worth is that he will be back alive by then. But PAYYD is in some trouble here. The Lion of Leopardstown, as he's known, forced to walk away from this fight, just give up this tier 2, which means
Check
the
out
tier 3 is likely to follow. But Sky
Sky over here.
underscore knocking this side and Maniac forced back to deal with it.
Sherrick's also here. They might look to catch him TPing out.
Indeed, they aren't Shirks. Once again, this Primal Beast, I have to say, player of the game for me so far on this Primal, made so many plays happen. Sky right-clicking away that bug, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be enough. He's very tanky mind, which is going to split this fight in two, but what's more important? Is it this
That's
Tide
the
or is it both these?
Ravage.
He pops the Ravage. I think he might kill Shirks here. One more right-click, so he's going to need. He pops the BKB instead, and they do force Maggie back as well. There's space created, and then there's SpaceX. Shirks drops the smiley face, but honestly, it completely stopped any advantage they had in their push there. They do still take out that tier 2, but they don't threaten that tier
Fish.
3.
He's
And
gonna
now
find Camkiz.
Kamki is in some trouble.
Close
Does
one.
have that Ghost Scepter and the Force Staff. Reese, very aggressive here, but has that Yule Scepter to protect himself. Don't act hard is the response to Sharks. Ooh! Like you didn't shit yourself with the BKB coming out from Sky. I love to see the animosity this early in the season.
Look, two teams with a little bit of history after playing one league with each other was... Oh dear, the Clinks has been found on a
Uh-oh.
sentry ward.
That is not what you want to see if you're a Skiddy's Angels fan. Now that might be the thing that forces them down this mid lane.
Yeah, with one hero dead, I think running in with no supports nearby, they were cowering in the base and they're just watching their carry walk into 5 Wong 0 under a sentry. It's pretty terrifying as it might be the buyback now have to come out for the Clinks.
Yeah, 47 seconds, no clinks. They do have the tide to clear these waves, but they have another fresh wave coming in immediately thereafter, which means they can't do a whole lot in terms of getting rid of this. They're throwing out the boomerangs and the gushes. They don't want to use this buyback. They're going to use that fortify just to dissuade Wongs for a few seconds, but the tower, despite having the ice armor on it, hang on, go in here onto Maniac. They do have that leash up, which means he's now stuck here. But can they do enough? Nice use there of the ult from the Lich, but it only bounces twice before it stops itself in its place, and he gets used. And a aggressive use there from Reese, but a beautiful stun after the use. The follow-up from the Tiny means that Maniac is the one to go down, and that pressure is no longer there. Wongs need to get the hell out of here, and they need to do it fast because they do have that Clinks back up. Shirks pops the BKB once again, and he jumps in onto the Tiny. They're thinking to go in without Maniac, but look at this damage onto this big old Primal Beast. But Koro, he's in the backlines. He's tearing out PAYYD. Sky underscore looks to be the next on his list. Throws out the damage as best he can, but out comes that chop. They have the Ravage, but the damage isn't enough. No, it's not. It's a double kill, and that's your Ravage used. Solar tickles them with an avalanche, but it's not going to do a whole lot here.
That looked like it could go both ways. This Shira's jump was ballsy, but pays off for Wongs. The damage of the Clinks is so threatening in these fights, but with the double Ghost Scepters on supports, the Weaver managed to make enough space for them to turn this into a pretty nice trade.
Indeed, quite nice for Wongs indeed, who now have a 10k net worth lead off the back of that last fight. Now, looking like they're going to start pressuring this game even more than they were previously.
They spotted Solar Crest running down this lane on the wards. They're right back at it. There's no Ravage left. If they find him here, and maybe even the Clinks as well as they go on the Viper, this could
Indeed.
be
It
a
seems
lane
like
of
the Viper could
racks.
be in some trouble first, though. The Viper is going to get chopped down. Down goes the Viper. That's a lot of tower damage gone there. TP away on the Tiny, but hit up with that Yule Scepter, and now Shirks,
Oh,
they do manage to get away at the last second there with the Clinks. Nice escape there, but Solar is going to be the man left behind. But he's playing a sacrificial role right now. He's probably not too fussed about this, to be honest. And he's actually getting away from this one. The rock's just out of range there, and Lunatic doesn't connect before the blink comes off cooldown. So a good engagement there for the side of Skiddies. We're now within 8k once again. This is a game of back and forths, Mr. Anti.
yeah, nice play on the side lanes. In and out. They have enough damage to take out the Viper and get away with it. As Coral, maybe not so lucky.
Yeah,
The
huge trouble
Manta.
here. Does have that big amount of regen, but the right clicks coming after the Clinks is just too much. One or two is always going to need to go down here. And out comes that leash. And now Koro does die. No Aegis to speak of. It had timed out. And now he's gone. Follow up as well onto the nullified Ringmaster. It's a 3-for-0 across the two lanes. And we're now back within 5k.
I mean, you love to see a brawly game like this, back and forth.
Indeed we do, and Lunatic, this game is not quite over yet. He does manage to escape from this one. We have a lovely message in this chat from a new chatter. I don't know who you are, Lee Healy, but you're my new favorite. He says, I love to hear your voice, my Southside angel. Thank you, babes. We train for these voices. You have to understand, my accent is the most hated accent in all of Ireland. It's a they hate us because they ain't us kind of situation. You know what I mean?
How much are you paying for these AI bots in the chat?
Yeah, just AI bot. If you go like a little bit more glazing for me, that'd be great. If you want to talk about how it sounds like I'm really strong and I go to the gym often, that would be absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Lee Healy bot, who is now one of my absolute faves in our chat. Looking at this win rate now, Skiddies take the advantage off that and indeed take the first tier 3, and we're now down to a 3k net worth advantage for the side of Wongs. I have to say, despite the early net worth advantage for this Broodmother, it feels like it's had a hard time facing into any of these fights once this tide has got the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, the later and later this goes, the better and better this Clinks hero looks compared to the Brood carry.
I gotta say, you'd have to be told that this Solar Crest Tiny is not a plus 4 considering his item build. Look how utility we're going here. We have the Lotus Orb, Blink, Yule Scepter, Phylactery. It feels like a 4 Tiny, right?
And it's certainly the build that I think he should have gravitated towards. I think it's such a tough tiny game that he just does need to buff up his Clinks, and I guess the Sky Tidehunter is doing so much in these fights as well.
Yeah, it's gotta
Big
be said, like
clash.
Sky. Oh, I'm gonna come in here. Nice use there of the stun from the Solar Crest, but there's no follow-up damage. Now Shirks catches out. It's a Lich he catches out, and he does kill him straight away, but look at the damage from those archers. It's absolutely ginormous. The break is added onto the Tide. The Tide does
Ravage.
not have Ravage. Yes, he does. He pops it straight away onto all these heroes. They're doing as much damage as they can into Coral. One or two right clicks. Always go taking these leash, but down goes Coral. They trade a Lich for the two supports. Buyback comes out from the Hoodwink. They want to get this Roche, and they have Solar Crest right in the middle of Voldemort now. Fish coming in around this left side. Gonna be in some trouble here in the Viper. Nullifier popped onto him. Liper about to go down. Only 2 HP left, but he does get the force away from Lunatic. But Solar Crest is here. Can he catch him? Yes, he does. Out comes the Avalanche. It's a positive trade now for the side of the Skiddies Angels. Lunatic pops that ult. Does manage to get himself away from there. But that Aegis, it's looking like it's going to go. Hang on, they're not done yet. Reese tries to make it go, doesn't quite connect. There's a double damage in the bottom lane, and there is an Aegis ready to be claimed.
It's all coming up Skiddies at the moment. What a nice fight from them. Wong's walking up into the triangle high ground under the cover of smoke, but with the positioning of the Tiny towards the front of the fight, They do manage to find a Lich early, but after he gets the ult off.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen the kind of game plan from Wongs, which is that if they can't delay out both the Gush spam and the Ravage from that Tide Hunter by getting that initial jump onto Tide, these fights look super hard.
Yeah, I think Wongs need to be bursting down a hero, but it's so difficult with the how tanky the Tide Hunter is, and how immobile the Viper feels in these fights. Um, really, the Brood needs to be supplying the damage, but without a blink to follow up with the Primal Beast lockdown, it's looking difficult for them to burst the target they need. Potentially, Shurix needs to look at counter-initiating into these fights, um, but finding the Clinks at the start of these fights is going to be proved to be a huge issue.
Aegis now in the back pocket of Fish, so even if they do catch him at this point, he will have that second light, and Clink's a very low cooldown hero, a very good Aegis carrier.
Yeah, a very 1v9 hero for sure. See what his item build's looking like. I mean, that's a scary item build if you're supports. He's got the Nullifier completed now, with a Daedalus to boot and working into the Ags.
Yeah, that Daedalus as well with that Desolator means that if Wongs lose even one or two fights, those towers are going to absolutely melt. You have a tiny plus a Clinks with those items. It's going to be extremely difficult for them to keep their base alive if they lose even one fight. The one kind of silver lining here is that they did have to use that Reese buyback for the last fight. So one or two more fights, and this could be looking a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think you're happy to lose the Reese buyback to secure the Aegis for the Clinks. We'll see if they can actually use it. It looks like they're shoving in the bot lane and might attempt to make a siege there.
Tormentor picked up here from the Dire as well. Worth noting. On to the Lich this time, so that is the Ice Spice. Oh, Fish! He's behind Nagi. He has a Tide Hunter with him as well, so the leash is going to be here. The Nullifier comes out. So much damage onto Nagi. It didn't feel like a Nagi hero, and it's not feeling like a Nagi performance right now.
It's pretty tricky. I feel like it's directly countered by the Clinks, just this supply of physical damage that you can lay into the Viper from range. It's not something he likes dealing with.
And we mentioned how fast the towers go down, and look at that, melted in about 5 hits. Solar Crest lands onto this Broom, a really nice save there from Kamki. Stops that fight in its tracks, but in the meantime, Fish just right-clicking these barracks. They say, okay, we might not kill all of you,
Ravage.
we'll just kill your buildings. They do Ravage Lunatic. No one else, though, which means Shurks now jumps in, goes to the ult, but cancels it immediately with that charge. And now instead, the Viper is in some trouble. Forced to go for the Ghost Scepter. Nice save once again from Kamki, but the ult is out from the Lich, and the ult this time, it looks more successful. PAYYD is down. Fish could be in some trouble here. Still has that Aegis, though. So this will be the first death for Fish. They do buy back here on Nagi. They do buy back here on Lunatic. Can they finish off Nagi here? Get that die back out. It doesn't look like it. He is escaping from this one. Now it's Solar's in trouble. Great buybacks from the side of Wongs have made this fight work. Reese still alive at the back. Fish still alive at the back. They're doing what they can to keep this Clinks alive. He's hit up with that rock. Follow up with the charge from Shurks. He's immediately on top of this Clinks. The right clicks is too much. They do manage to take out the Clinks in the end there. It is a 5-for-4 with 2 buybacks expended from the side of Wong's Bakery.
What an absolute massacre of a fight. Keeley, I think Shiraz does find the jump with the blink slam onto the Clinks, at least in the second half of this fight when they're chasing him down. Does allow Coral and Nagi to supply some of the damage into him. With a bit of an awkward initiation there, we see Shiraz pop the BKB slightly early after the nice 4-staffs out by the Tiny with his support build. Good disengage there, but they do manage to eventually find and catch up with all these heroes. And Coral really would love to take 2 sets of racks here while they're dead.
He might just do so. Might force out some of these buybacks. Can we have a look at the buyback chart for just a second, please? If that's okay. So looking at these buybacks, we have buyback on the cores, but they're definitely not going to use on the Tiny. The Clinks may be forced to do so. That's 1 barracks down almost immediately. The second barracks now also going to be pushed post-haste. You have another 30 seconds with no Clinks, so you need to buy this back ASAP, right?
I think you just have to let these go at this point. You've got a second fortifier because the tier 3 is dropped. And with the heroes respawning in 10-20 seconds, Coral might feel he needs to back off.
Ult popped here from the Lich, but he drops the Ice Spice after the ult, unfortunately, so it isn't able to connect there
They will
onto
save
the
their
Broodmother,
barracks.
but it does save the barracks, which is a nice play, and now Fish is back on this Clinks.
Nice decision from Paid there to just drop the ult. Just dissuades Coral for 1 or 2 attacks, and that's enough to keep the melee barracks alive.
I don't know who Shower Salts is. If you could please review yourself, I'd really appreciate it because they have just posted my literal place I live, which is concerning. Shower Salts, if you could review yourself, I would highly appreciate that. I hope you're someone I know at least. This isn't some very strange, unless he's about the three rocks of the Primal Beast, which I hope he is, because otherwise this is a little odd. Let's hope so. Getting a pause right now, looking at these networks, we do have Koro taking back over that top slot. I think one of the things that made a difference that last fight was that he had completed that butterfly, and we don't see an MKB yet on this Clinks, do we?
We do not. I believe he's building towards the Ag still, which still within reach for him. He could buy out.
Yeah, I think that's perhaps why we see that Spider survive in that last fight. Just the combination of the necrotic grabs with that big butterfly means that he is able to survive through that one. He's also building into a Scotty, so it seems survivability is the name of the game from here.
Yeah, I'm sure he might even consider a Satanic after the Skadi, and just tank through all of the damage from Skiddys. If you've got the BKB to survive through the Ravage in the initial tiny jump, then you're probably comfortable enough to just lifesteal off the rest of these heroes. We've been seeing Coral being very tanky in his fights with the innate insatiable hunger lifesteal, and further to that, it's going to be harder and harder for Skiddies to scale their magical burst damage into the late game. But I mean, the Clinks is still going to rip through all of the heroes on Wongs.
He is. He is no longer the highest net worth in the game, but he still outputs so much damage, and the type of damage he does is so effective into them that it still feels like this is anyone's game. They do only take one lane of racks off the back of that fight. It's basically even in terms of the map state.
Octarine completed out for the Lunatic Weaver and will now build into the Axe, so that is that kind of secondary save that they might need against the burst damage.
Indeed, and a really nice one to pick up there. It seems like Wongs have recognized the fact that the name of the game is surviving through the avalanche into right-click combos. So I think it now falls upon the side of Skitty's Angels to put more of an emphasis onto these support pickups than they previously did, and that could be quite significant in terms of how this game progresses.
Yeah, both supports, or at least a couple of supports now picking up or working towards Scythe of Vice, which, if these BKBs are the root cause of being able to kite these fights out, then a quick cheeky Hex and then some Clinks damage might be enough to seal the deal, as Fish is lurking in this bot lane.
Indeed, he is. Could have some trouble here for
They
Kamki.
find
Kamki's caught up
Kamki.
immediately. The nullifiers on top of him as well. So much damage pushing onto him. A nice early pick to start this last fight.
Look how large this fish is. Sky is certainly big this game. Lots of
Indeed, they
Octarine
are
cores
doing.
picked up across the board this game. I feel like this item has not been as popular as this game would indicate in the recent months.
Indeed, it seems like they're putting a lot of pressure onto this last little bottom barrack. Seems like one or two right clicks is all it's going to take for it to go down here. The pressure is coming out. They could take it out here. Up comes Reese. And meanwhile, mid barracks is shredded by the Clinks.
What absurd damage.
Indeed, very absurd. And now the Tidehunter just walks into that bottom lane, and one right click from the Clinks takes out. Now we've got two lanes of racks with nothing lost for the side of Skiddies, and we're back within 1k of this game.
It's just very difficult to get on top of the Clinks without committing everything. And if there's not a good opening, and you don't feel comfortable committing everything, then you just have to sit back and watch as he destroys your buildings, unfortunately.
Indeed, and Roche is now back up. Could be an option for them. They're pinging it in this top lane for the side of Wongs. This could be the team fight that decides this game.
Certainly feels that way as Lunatic going a bit mad here.
Indeed, he is, but he's caught out the Lich, and now also this little tiny big old hoodwink not in a nice position, and he used his buyback last time. I don't know if it's back off cooldown, and Wong's used this to go straight into the Roche, but meanwhile, I see the Clinks walking towards
There's
that top
Rax
tower.
is in trouble. Ronadell, I'm not
Bulldog,
feeling
bottom
very
lane,
well.
look at that damage. They
Good
force back
lord.
2 heroes, but the tower's still dead. What the fuck is that? Ridiculous. They do catch him out though. Shirks, he's on top of him. He can't get out. Fantastic play there from the Primal Beast. And now the Roche is free, and they're going to force the buyback out of this Clinks, who does still have it. Meanwhile, Maniac is probably also going to go down here, hit up with that leash, but PAYYD
Look at my
might go
rank
down
1
in
space
exchange.
creator.
Incredible space creation here. PAYYD does end up getting out of that, but the Aegis goes to the backhands of Koro. A very important kill there picked up onto the Clinks, and honestly what they needed to come back into this game.
Gosh, this Clink's damage. I mean, taking the tier 3 after appearing for a second on their map and then dipping, and then the skeletons almost took a Rax by themselves as a leftover. But a slip up from the Clinks gets caught by Shurix. Nice response from him, finds the grab. And now an opening for Wong's Bakery with an Aegis.
They need to buy back the Clinks here. We saw how fast those barracks went down last time. Instead, though, it looks like they're going to just try to do some riding of their own, get the Megas on their side. The Tidehunter moving in towards that bottom Rax location. They're throwing out as much as they can from Reese here to try to force them back. The Tide is on top of the barracks, and they do have the tiny bottom as well. So they are pressuring on exchange. They take out those range racks. The melee racks, the last one left alive. They might just trade Megas for Megas here, in which case Clinks might not have to buy back, especially because they now are trading Fortifies. They're making this high stakes, and I feel like in a straight up base race that this definitely favors Skiddys.
That's Megas for Skiddys, and Tide is back to help fight.
Indeed, of 1 second till the Clinks. Sky could be in some trouble here. Pops the BKB though, walks away from this. Nagas forced the BKB and TP away as well. So in the end there, some really clever positioning from the cores on the side of Skiddys actually makes that bad for Wongs. They lose the Mega Creeps and don't get that top lane of Rax.
And the Wong's Bakery team don't look like a great team to be dealing with Mega Creeps in the base.
Okay, I have solved the mystery of who is Shower Salts. Thank you very much, Bambi, for doxing me in all chat. I really appreciate it, you prick. But in any actuality, they are now in serious trouble on the side of Wongs, despite having this Aegis, that constant push in. And to be honest with you, not the best heroes to be dealing with it.
No, certainly not. Not the position you want to be in. But still not out of the picture. Let's see what Gabe Newell thinks.
Seems like he gives us 80% win chance. Oof.
That's the same as a Spirit Breaker bash chance, so I wouldn't bet against Wongs pulling this one out.
Yeah, it's always a possibility, especially since we've seen how back and forth this game has been so far. It really still is anyone's game, and now going for that haste room picked up now from Koro could enable them to make some plays, but once again, the pressure coming out of this bottom lane from those Mega Creeps is going to force at least 1 or 2 heroes back, and the Clinks is hanging around just in case they don't. There could be a split fight here. The Brood is sitting mid. Shurks could be in some trouble here. Fish could make a go. He does have heroes behind him that can help him in this go if he so wishes. There's no Tidehunter, unfortunately, so no straight up ability to keep them in place. But still enough pressure where he can play this one entirely comfortably.
Yeah, Fish still just seeking for an opening on any hero here. Look how quickly that wave dissolves under his burning arrows.
This Clinks hero kind of good, I think. Kind of good.
Yeah, pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good.
Indeed. And now, all of Wongs seem to be playing very tight. They recognize the fact that they caught out the Tide. Tide does have the BKB and does have the Ravage. They need to be a little bit careful here because in comes Fish. They catch the Ravage onto Koro. Koro in some huge trouble. Out comes the Assassinated as well. from that
Lynx is
hoodwink.
locked
But
down.
Fish now in some trouble, doing as much damage as he can, trying to get away from this. But a nice ult there coming out from the Primal Beast means that he is now also dead. But creeps are pushing in their tier 4s. But 3 important kills come out there from the side of Wongs. Make that 4 Solar Crest now in a huge amount of trouble, trying to do what he can, throwing out the avalanche, trying to delay as much as humanly possible, but it's not enough. Down he goes. A ginormous fight there for Wong's Bakery, taking back this lead.
It's a lot of heroes dead, but with the mega creeps in the base, how much are they really going to get off this? None of the lanes are pushed.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit challenging here. They can't quite get too much out of it. It is only 60 seconds left on that.
I mean, if this was pre-mega creeps, that would have been a huge opening to take down the Dire base, but now you've just traded Aegis for, a couple thousand gold at this point. Not too much meaning in that.
No, it feels like even with the best case scenario, which that fight was, it's still just not what you're looking for.
Shield rune on Coral Brood.
Indeed it is, and he's
Reese might
immediately
be in
going in onto
trouble.
Sky
Hexed up.
Score. Hex comes down to Reese, follow up as well with that whip. He has the dust on top of him. He's not going to be able to get out of this one. A lot of damage coming out as well as those knives. Shirks needs to be careful. Those Shirks very low here in the primal, but does manage to get away from that one. And now it looks like they're going to try to get as much pressure as possible, but only 15 seconds until that Clinks is back up. Can they get the Megas within that 13, 14 seconds is the question. They do have the Ice Armor coming out from the Lich, which is going to make that just that little bit harder. 5 seconds until the Clinks is back up. It seems like the side of Wongs are going to try to force this fight. They don't have the Viper, but he does have the Boots of Travel if something breaks out here. In they come, the TPs fall out. Coral forced to pop that BKB TP, and indeed he does the Nightfall straight out, and they find those Mega Creeps. Now that means we're back to a pretty even state here, where, to be frank with you, I think I'd almost favor the side of the Wong's Bakery. If you can get stream back up on Discord, please, that'd be absolutely super. I'm flying blind right now.
Yeah, we're all flying blind because my game has crashed, but we're getting all the bugs out in the first game of the season, that's like we said, so we'll get that back up and running for you shortly.
Indeed, we will. Let's have a quick conversation about how these last few fights have had. So now, with those megas secured, do you think this game looks significantly difficult for the side of Skiddies? I feel like the one benefit they had in these last few fights was the pressure that those megas exerted. It feels a little bit scary, no?
Evening up the mega creeps, I think, is crucial for Wongs to have any chance in this game, and doing it there and the Clink's not buying back to defend it feels like it's slipping away from them slightly here on the side of Skiddies. So hopefully we can reconnect in, and the Ancient hasn't fallen yet.
Indeed, it seems like it hasn't. I'm going to predict that it hasn't. If it has, then we're going to have some interesting chats, I'd imagine. I imagine Owen chat and the likes will have some things to say about that. But at times, we just do our best around here. Isn't that it?
Look, we're back in. None of the players wanted to
And there we
pause
go.
for
There
us,
is
and there's
my
a lot of
wonderful
heroes
stream.
dead.
Indeed, it looks like something went rather poorly for the side of Skiddies.
That's very unfortunate for them.
Indeed it is. They might have just lost the game off the back of that last fight, but it seems like the Clinks is going to try to base race them. The Clinks is sitting in this bottom lane. We might have a base race on our hands here. They almost kill off Kamki, and Fish isn't done yet. He's not scared of Nagi. This could be closer than we think. Oh, that's an early fortify. That is an early fortify, and not a good one. Fish comes in here. That's a second tier 4 that's going to melt immediately. Nagi does throughout the ult, but Nagi needs to walk away. And now the Ancient is exposed. They do pop their own fort now, but PAYD with those ice armors has kept this tower alive as long as he can. He is the last man left alive for the side of them, but meanwhile Fish is killing off hero after hero, but Lunatic's in on him. Fish goes down. That might be game. The base race is all over. GG called by Skiddy's Angels. It's Jover indeed. Game 1 going to the side of Wongs. What a back and forth performance. Holy moly.
And a little bit of friendly shit talk at the end of the game, as expected with any Wong's Bakery game, I would say. But congratulations to Wong's Bakery for pulling this one. I'd say, well, I think miraculously out of the bag was maybe a stretch, but a very nice comeback performance from them.
Indeed, it was a really impressive performance here from the side of Wong's Bakery, and indeed from the side of the Skis Angels. I mean, if you look at the kill score, it does not tell the story of this game in any way. 23 kill difference, and despite that, an extremely close game.
Yes, I mean, I think with the closeness of this game, I'm very forward to looking forward to game two. I'd love to see a 1-1, like I said. Both teams look like they're playing pretty well, and hopefully we can continue that energy throughout the season.
Indeed, folks, we're back in just a couple minutes with our game two. We look forward to seeing you there. See you soon, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, after a tumultuous game one, we are firing into game two, and indeed the World War II microphone has been lost, so hopefully you can hear me loud and proud for what is set to be one hell of a matchup after that first game. I'm Running Tail, going to take you through this one alongside my incredibly handsome analyst and obs, the savior to my yap. How are you, Auntie?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing pretty great after this Wong's victory. Completely unbiased, but you love to see it.
I reckon that when we disconnected from stream, there was some hacking going on. Now, I have no proof of this, but I know that Solar Crest is an honest man, and he would never tell a lie nor lose a game. So we're going to have to see if they pull out in this game. Looking at the bans, they're quite similar to game one. We see the Timbersaw, the Shirk Special taken out. We see the Void Spirit taken out, one of Nagi's specialties, and in return, Wong's very big on banning out the Spirit Breaker, which I'm not sure what that's about, but also the Reese Wind Ranger and the Solar Crest Mid Earth Spirit.
Yep, just updating some overlays here, so you can keep talking for a bit.
I will keep yapping away as long as I can. Waiting for the next ban out from Skiddys Angels here. I believe in the previous game they prioritized a lot more the mid heroes. This time they do actually choose to ban out that Tusk. It was kind of the looming presence in the back of the previous draft. And it suggests perhaps they're going to go for an offlaner this time that's a little bit less sustainable, something a bit more flashy for Sky to pick up here. Potentially something like one of his Mars is quite well known, very, very good. They also ban out the Jackro, a Camkey special, a very solid pos 5. A lot of pick rate right now as pos 5s. You can do a lot of harass from a distance are quite preferable. Waiting now on this first pick from the side of Wongs. Wongs last time really favored this idea of having a very flexible draft. And speaking of flexible, they pick up the Tiny as their first pick here. Now, is it flexible? Big question about Tiny at the moment. Can you still play it in that support role? We saw last game, it went into that mid lane role. It did struggle a little bit, but perhaps that's only because you're playing into a Viper. I did like the way that Solar Crest tried to do it in the end there, trying to play that more utility role. We're going to see what the Tide does this game. Going a utility build just doesn't feel like a Nagi play to me, though. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like, that is...
certainly not.
Right? It's not his vibe. Giddies, go for the Tide again.
I mean, it looked strong in this last game, very strong. It was the first pick, so Wong's had the whole draft to decide what their counters were. It looked a little shaky in lane, but with the item choices into the mid game, Sky looked very strong in it, and he is one of the premier UK offlaners, so we expect nothing less from him.
Indeed, there's kind of a trifecta of UK offliners who fight over who is the best. It is Sky, Fraser, and a guy called Corey, apparently. I've never heard of the Corey guy, but apparently they are kind of the goats, allegedly. Ban out here onto Bounty Hunter. A little odd.
Uh, yeah, I would say so. A little odd. I think another one of those heroes that can build a phylactery, so potentially is now coming more into the meta as a POS 4. It is a Maniac style hero. He's been known to play a little bit of it in the past, so not completely out of picture, but does kind of give me the vibe that they're going to look for another Invis hero again for Skiddy's Angels, potentially straight back to the Clinks or picking up the Weaver themselves this game.
The Clinks still felt excellent last game. Even though they didn't win it, it basically almost 1v9'd. So if you can get that Clinks to a slightly better position, I see no reason why you don't just go for it again.
Yeah, strong hero in the patch, alongside the PL and Spectre, which aren't banned out in this first phase, so we could see one of those cropping up in the game. We do see the Jakiro banned out, still one of the strongest, if not the strongest, position 5 currently in the game.
The Ursa is next ban out we see, which suggests that they're going to pick up something here that isn't easily enough. They go for the Shadow Shaman. That is most likely the Solar Crest here on the 4. It's one that he really favors. I don't particularly know this PAYYD guy, but I know that Solar Crest definitely likes this hero.
Yeah, Shadow Shaman supplements some of that tower push within a draft and great lockdown. So I think if you're picking this early when it's not really a top meta hero or a counter to Tiny, I think it tends to lead to the plan that it's rounding off your draft in some way. So they may be picking some cores with less lockdown or less innate tower push.
The next pickup here is that Ringmaster. We saw Kamki on that last game. It looked very comfortable for him, didn't it?
Yeah, one of his most played heroes. Some nice saves out with the box last game. Again, a flex hero for Wong's Bakery. Um, this Tiny first pick and Ringmaster second pick, both flexible across roles. So we'll see how their draft shapes itself as they take the clinks.
Indeed, they do. The Clinks being picked up by Wong's Baker here. They obviously saw how good Fish was on it last game, and they don't want to hit into that again. Don't want to play into this hero looking that scary, so instead they take it for themselves. And I think quite a good pickup here. I'm just heads up, my voice is a little bit laggy, so I'm going to switch over to a balanced cam feed while we're figuring out the bugs of our early games here. So give me just a second while I do that.
Yeah, I believe your video feed and audio feed are both a bit laggy. So yeah, let's tinkle down on the
Let's
volume
switch
on
that
that.
over. Let's do that. Keep me covered for a sec here, boss man.
I will turn you off momentarily.
Excellent. Okay, I'm good to go. Back in for this Clinks. We're waiting for this next pickup now from the side of Skiddy's Angels. Likely they're going to go for that Pause 5 here. We saw in the first game they picked up that big old scary Lich, and we didn't really see a whole lot from it in the end, did we?
No, I think the few ults we did see were bouncing between spiders or bounce to a neutral camp. I think we maybe saw one or two effective ults out of it, but wasn't a great performance. Even in the lane, we didn't feel its effectiveness for keeping the Clink safe.
Next pickup for the side of Skis Angels is the Ember Spirit. This is exactly what I was expecting this game. Mr. Solar Crest has just had a misery game, and he just wants to stabilize it. And when he is in this sort of position, he always wants the Ember Spirit. He always wants his most comfortable hero, the hero he knows at least he won't feed horrendously on.
Yeah, you are inviting, like, you're laying the glove down to Nagy with this kind of pick, I think.
Mm.
With the Void Spirit banned out, we could be seeing one of Nagi's more solid heroes, but with an Ember Spirit pick this early in the draft, you leave yourself potentially open to a Husker last pick. It's something they need to keep in mind. They've only got two bans left to play around with, um, so they should just keep it slightly in mind.
Next pick up the side of Skitties is the Skywrath, a hero which once again is seeing quite a large resurgence this patch off the back not only of the buffs that he has received, but also just the fact that, as I said earlier, those harass heavy supports are looking pretty good at present. Waiting this next pick now for the side of Wongs. Are we predicting a Shirks hero to come out here with a Core ultimate last, sorry, with a Nagi ultimate last pick?
I think it needs to be a Shirk's hero here. That leaves their last pick open to flex the Tiny between 4 and 2. As for which Shirk's hero we want to be seeing here, it could just be the Primal Beast again. It was a nice performance out from him in that last game, and it kind of resolves the same issues in this draft where you've got, similar to last game, you had this ranged carry and you just need a guy to go in, grab someone, lock them down. Pretty nice against the Ember Spirit, just keeping him stuck, but there's a lot of cancel out from Skiddies. You've got the Sky Silence and the Shadow Shaman lockdown, the long range Ravage even to disrupt, so slightly harder game without a BKB for Shurix to play that. In terms of his other heroes, I mean, Axe, probably not going to see that this game, but it's another Viper pick to effectively counter out this Tidehunter. It's great against Ember mid, so it could be another Nagi Viper game.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see that because, Nagy a lot of times is that early playmaker for the side of Wongs. And last game, despite having a very good start, we saw the danger of not snowballing on the Viper. He was getting picked apart. To be fair, they did have a Clinks last game, which they're not going to have this game. But they're also not banning out a lot of those terrifying pause ones right now. They kind of need to take out both Spectre and PL here. They do take out the PL. The Spectre is left open.
Yeah, certainly an option, although a lot worse into Viper because the break not easily avoided by a Spectre. But
The break
certainly,
is very nice into it, but natural builder of Manta, right? So not the worst thing in the world.
yeah, not the worst thing in the world. I'd kind of like to see a CK for Skiddy's Angels. I think that hero's completely dumpster right now, so it might not be pickable.
Hmm.
But I think in theory, that is what I would lean towards personally. Um,
Like I suppose at this point we're just looking for like meta hero that does insane amounts of physical damage. I mean, one that's untouched that could probably fight into a Klinkseer. We do still have a Wraith King in the pool. With the exception of the Viper, it could do a bit of damage in a game like this.
yeah, there's an option for the Wraith King. I think Klinx's sustained damage in a fight is potentially an issue for the Wraith King. I think also Viper going the corrosive skin, attack
Hmm.
speed, blocking build might be an issue for a Wraith King. I think I'd prefer to see, yeah, I think it needs to be a burst carry for Skiddies, but they might choose to play the game slightly differently to how I'm seeing it here. I just think they're going to have a lot of trouble taking out the Viper without a burst physical carry.
Be a Drow Ranger?
It could be. I mean, with the Tiny getting on top of her, it's going to be tricky in the mid game. Klinks could just randomly find her and blow her up. But I'd say it is playable in a team fight with this lineup. Slightly
Thing is,
more
we don't know what this
traditional
tiny
lineup.
is yet, right?
Yeah, still a flex. So is the Viper. So it could be offlane Viper. It could be mid Viper. Could be Tiny mid. Could be Tiny 4. So Wongs really have a bit of a playground here to choose how they're approaching this. We do see the Huskar ban out from Skiddy's Angels, so uh, at least paying attention to the draft as it stands, which
A bit
you'd
of a
hope so at
crisis
this
averted there
level.
potentially.
Yeah, potentially with a consideration. We will see the Primal Beast for Sherix. I think it makes sense within the draft. It really rounds it off. They're effectively playing last game's draft, but with a better carry, I'd say.
And a tiny four instead of that Weaver for this game. I haven't seen Maniac play a whole lot of tiny four in the past.
Yeah, not one of his most picked heroes, but he is a melee for enjoyer, so if he can play this blink disruptor kind of in and out style on the tiny, find some toss backs into his Viper for some free kills, that'll be pretty nice. Juggernaut last pick for Skiddies.
So obviously you have a natural BKB piercing stun in the Shirk's Primal Beast. You have the Clinks able to go invis against the early Omni Slashes. I'm not sure how I feel about that one, to be honest with you, Auntie.
So it at least resolves the one puzzle piece that they had to resolve, which is physical damage burst to kill the Viper. They
Sure.
had to pick a carry that resolved that issue. Maybe Fish is just more comfortable in the Juggernaut, but I wouldn't say it's an amazing Jug game. If you are pressing your Blade Fury at the wrong moment, Clinks pops out on top of you and shoots you, you're not going to feel very happy. So he's going to have to play this quite safe. And with Tidehunter being the only front line into a Viper, I think they might have more difficulty than last game playing these fights. Like they don't have this Tiny to jump in and then also be a bit tanky.
Yeah, I'm not loving this draft as much from Skitty's Angels as I loved it last game. I just feel like there is so much resting upon the shoulders of a juggernaut that is not in the best position to succeed right here. I mean, Sky likely to have a lot nicer lane than last time, but in actuality, let's get into this. We're hoping for 1-1. Let's see if we can pull that off this game. A reminder, folks, this is the second game of a best of two taking place between Wong's Bakery and the side of Skitty's Angels. My name is Runtime, taking you through this one alongside my analyst and Dobbs, double jobbing tonight, Anti-Extreme. Let's see how this one goes. What is your bet based upon what we see right now in front of us?
I mean, I'm feeling Wongs, especially after that performance in the last game, holding it together, not just on the gameplay, but mentally, which sometimes Wongs can struggle with. I'm looking forward to another Wongs win here, or at least hopeful. How are you feeling as a big Juna?
As a big junior, I'd like to see Solar Crest at least have a game this game. And he is definitely in a position. I mean, Viper and Ember is still not ideal, right? I'm
At
not gonna
least it's
lie
not the
there.
Huskar though.
Yeah, it's not great. Like it is still pretty damn tough for Mr. Crest. Double Vipered mid. Holy moly. But at least it looks like they're trying to do something about this. The classic run three heroes at Viper level 1 because he has 10 movement speed idea. I like this.
Yeah, pretty nice level one on Skiddys actually. So if they do find the Viper blocking the creep wave here, that could make a nicer bit of space for this Ember in the lane. And having this Obs Ward behind the tower is going to be a big help later if they do decide to drag waves on the Ember, which is always a consideration to make. Shira's I'm not sure if he saw Reese there or just didn't care, but
Yeah. I was kind of waiting with bated breath to begin, my big casting spiel, and then nothing happened. So I just kind of got to chill there for a second, I suppose.
yeah,
Just staring at each other.
avoids this rotation by Nagi, so or on Nagi rather. So very nice for him.
One thing I will say is that at least the supports on the side of Skitties are far more capable of ganking than supporting duo that existed last game. A Skyrath and a Shaman can do so much more here in terms of exerting that pressure.
Yeah, I'd say they've kind of got similar uh, aggressive potential as to the supports last game. I think they're a kind of similar vein of heroes with these nukers with the stuns, go well with the Tide Hunters. So in theory, it's a nice rounded draft from them. But maybe still these tanky heroes, the Viper and the Primal Beast, going to cause issues.
Indeed, they could. We can see even from wave one, this Ember absolutely being ran down by this Viper does get off the chains onto the Viper there. Very importantly does so, because otherwise could be dying here. But gets all 6 of the last hits from that first wave. So the Australian special pulling it out there in the end.
Yeah, we'll keep a focus on
I
these
mean,
side lanes. I think we kind of know how this mid lane is going to go.
yeah, it feels like a bit of a foregone conclusion. But that being said, so far before that level 3, he is looking okay, I say, as the Viper immediately takes an advantage. Interesting to see as well, the Shaman does go for the chicken fingers, so is putting a bit more emphasis onto that lane. It's obviously the normal pick when you are playing with the Juggernauts. So fair enough here. Want to give a quick shout out to Corey Vibe Check, my boy Corey, giving us the sub. Thank you so much, bro. We appreciate all primes in this chat. You are indeed the best of UK offlaners. I think that's what he wants to hear, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Also the biggest of people who say they're coming to LAN and they don't come. Blakes, as we call them in my country, but sure look, sure listen.
Look, it's pros and cons with players, isn't it? Pros and cons.
It's true. There's a bit of good in everyone, and there's a bit of bad in everyone. Nobody is born a sinner and no one dies a saint, Auntie. That's what I've been told.
Not too much
Looking back towards the
aggression.
spot lane, seems like a good start for this Ember, right? 14-1 on Mr. Crest so far.
Pretty
Looks
impressive.
like they're gonna go for a spin here. Out onto the Tiny, but the Tiny is taking very little damage here, so he is just able to walk away from that one. But so far, a much better laning stage for the side of Skiddies compared to last game.
Yeah, I think important for Solo to hold his own here and not get too baited by the low HP Nagi, who is walking him
Why
down.
do we cast? Why do we cast? Why
One
do we
more.
cast? Why do we cast? We just curse people. It's
Look,
all we do.
I think Solo was feeling a bit overconfident after he's got all the CS in the last couple of waves. He forgot that he's playing against a Viper and he can't walk like that.
Yeah, a really unfortunate death on Solar Crest, who was having a really good start to the game. Actually, out CSing the Viper up to that point, but a crucial mistake completely takes him out there in those mid lanes.
Look, there's a couple of levels on the Viper is all it takes to get zoned away from the wave completely. As Sky also not really feeling great stepping up here into Coral as
And
bot
it's
lane.
all because the Skywrath went through the portal to that bot lane, and with the help of Fish, they do manage to take out Shirks. They turn the momentum of this bot lane. We gotta say, the Juggernaut 20 and 8 into the 14 and 2, the Primo, a very nice start for the Jug.
And I'm shaking my fist angrily at the Observer for missing that, but under the tower we see Solar Crest once again. Little tree play, very cute.
Yeah, and it actually forces the Viper to take a lot of tower hits now. He's probably one hit of Sleight of Fist plus Chain's dead. This could be a kill here for
Bug
Solo if
on
he
the
plays this
brood.
right. One or two. One more little tick of that would have been all it needs. He does force him to walk away. Solar is dancing back and forth. It seems like Nagi is more than happy to get that trade, but in
Reese is
comes
here
the
with a
big old
slow.
Reese on the Skywrath Mage. Can he do enough damage here? He has the chains follow up as well with a support TP out from the from this big old Shaman. Down goes Nagi, and suddenly Solar takes a slight lead in this lane.
And like you can see, they're pouring a lot of resources into giving Solar Crest a game. I'm sure you're right about him being a bit angry about how it went last game, so rightly so with these rotations. Camkey taking a bit of harass up here.
Indeed, and in the meantime, they aren't able to get the pressure out onto either this bot or top lane to punish the movements of those supports. So it ends up being a net win for the type of Skiddy, who now take a net worth advantage off the back of that kill as well.
Yeah, still lots of movement in this middle lane as a toss back onto Nagi. Paid, probably
Yeah,
dead
as a
here.
mid laner there, you just turn and last hit. This is a mode despair. There's not much you can do here. Just turn last hit, take the loss. Perfectly reasonable.
And it supports galore as Reese and Camkey on the other side, on the other rune. Maybe looking for some action.
Could potentially do so. We now see out leveling on this bottom lane. The Juggernaut a higher level than this Primal Beast. Of course, Juggernaut doesn't really threaten the Primal Beast even when he hits that 6. But meanwhile, out comes a nice use of the leash. Nice deny of the regen there by Reese. Forces it away. Does mean that his own Ember can't get it.
Shirks.
But at that point, there was no time to get it. Out comes the big old use of the Shackles onto this Primal Beast. Follow up with the Hex as well. Shurax is dead again. Fish off to a fantastic start this game.
Yep. Paid wanders back to his lane after helping out in the mids. Walks around the back of the tree line and finds a catch.
Solar needs to be really careful now, though. We do have a level 6 in this
Top
Viper,
lane
but top
Coral.
lane looks like a go's being made out onto Koro. A lot of damage here. He has used the concussive shot. Follow up as well with the Shaman. Great use there of the portal, but he doesn't have the mana, first off, for the Shackles. He now casts them, but cancels them immediately. Right click's coming out onto Kamki. Kamki is going to go down, but they trade it for Sky and a kill into Koro, which just isn't worth it.
The miscalculation of the mana there kind of costing them. A kill for Coral is a huge amount of alliteration and a boon for the Wongs team.
Indeed it is, and I appreciate a good bit of alliteration on a Friday afternoon. We love to hear it. Throwing some assonance as well there, and I'll be the
Yeah,
happiest man in the world.
keeping it lively here.
Keeping it lively, thriving, in the times of our lives. There you go. There's a bit of assonance there thrown into a mid-sentence. Came up right off the dome. See that? That's the difference, bro, I tell you. In any actuality, let's have a look at this Juggernaut in terms of what he's building into. He has the Cornucopia finished up. He's moving in towards that Battle Fury. Going to be a very early Battle Fury here on this Juggernaut. Can we flick over to the net worth there if possible, Mr. Anty?
We can. He is top net worth 4k at 8 minutes.
Yeah, looking a little bit terrifying. I mean, we said earlier in this draft that we were worried about the amount that this Juggernaut can do in this game other than bursting on that Viper. But if he has to start like this, it's very different. Out comes the root onto Shirks. The Shirks going to die again. He does get off the onslaught, but there's still the follow-up with the Hex. So he can't run away here. Hit up with that Hex. It's a kill this time for Solar Crest. And a difficult start for the Primal Beast, but he is still doing better than the Tidehunter.
Another good rotation just as Lunatic steps away from the lane.
He is
It's now
really
pressure
pressuring every single
back to
time
the
they don't
mid.
show that tiny. The pressure is here. I mean, honestly, with the Skywrath here, I'm not sure they can go as aggressive as they would like to. Of course, you do have that Viper Strike, but one thing we didn't note is this Ember Spirit just being able to throw out the Sleight of Fist, not put himself in Viper Strike range, does make a big difference here.
Yeah, although can't really pressure the Viper away either, so I suppose a bit stalematey.
Pause comes out from Solar Crest. Perhaps a dingo ate his baby, one would assume. Oh, internet. He's allowed to misspell things horrendously. He's an engineer. They don't have to learn how to spell. In terms of this early game so far, do you think this is a better position for Skiddies or worse than last game?
That's an interesting question. As I recall, it was reasonably even for a good chunk of time until Wongs built a small lead, kind of around this timing when they're hitting their level sixes, on the supports at least. I think because Tiny's effectiveness doesn't become much more with his level six, we're probably going to see the Skiddies team close out these towers with the Serpent Wards. The Skywrath ult is going to be pretty powerful, potentially with a Ravage to get a kill on the Clinks in the top lane. I think those are the two scenarios that I'd be expecting in the next few minutes. In terms of the Wong's timings in the next few minutes, there's not really much happening. Um, Primal Beast takes a while to get online to the point where he feels comfortable diving in against these heroes. Viper is just going to be kited around for a bit, wants to just sit and farm his items too. And Clinks is going to be ducking for cover under his tower. So really it falls on the supports for Wongs to make or defend plays in this next section of the game. And I'm not sure the Tiny is equipped well enough to do that.
We got a message there from Solar Crest saying brain lag had to get beer. So he's truly been turned to remember the June squad at this point, you know? He's mousy pilled. The more pints he has, the better he plays.
I did hear that new rule this season, depending on what division you're in, that's how many points you have to neck before you play.
Oh, hell yeah. Div 3's fucked against me, boys.
Well,
Having a chance. That is the greatest buff you can give to June Squad Junior imaginable.
I feel like Div 4 might be struggling after a couple matches.
I think it won't be that noticeable, to be frank. But in any actuality, my apologies to Al and Cabin Crash. Of course, it would be entirely noticeable if you guys had four pints on board. I'm of course being facetious in this moment. One thing I want to point out actually here is that in terms of their ability to get the solo kills with the Skyrath 6, we mentioned the Ravage, but it's also worth noting when that Skyrath gets 6, with just the Shadow Shaman alone, he can get a significant number of kills here. And speaking of kills, they're jumping in immediately out onto the big old Viper. They have the Ravage here if they can position correctly. He tried to get in for it. Out comes the Viper strike. He jumps
Nice
away
stun.
there. But a really nice stun there from Lunatic. He almost dies on this Ember, but not quite. And now jumping in for this rune takes the DD rune or the AD rune, forcing them away for a second or two. The silence coming out from the Skywrath Mage needs to be very careful to jump away before that ends. Really nice back and forth here from Skiddies. Kiting Maniac within an inch of his life. He does live from the uphill there, but he's hit up with that Avalanche, and Solar Crest takes the last hit there. Gotta say, Solar Crest backing and forth and using the duration of that silence. Pure Kino, bro, as we'd say in the South Side.
Yeah, very nice kiting there from Skiddies. As we see another fight potentially breaking out, we do see the Shaman wards dropped on this bot tower.
Indeed, and they're making it go onto the Juggernaut, but the Juggernaut still has the speed spin, so it seems like instead they might be able to stop this push temporarily, but that tower is definitely on life support. It'd be interesting to see whether they choose to deny it here or not. Meanwhile, this mid lane being pushed in simultaneously, so all the map pressure right now going the way of the Skis Angels, and they do take out that bottom tower. It is denied in the end, but hang on, the root does land, but as the Viper Strike, TP comes out from this Ember. No connection from the Avalanche, but they do still finish him off. And now it is this Skyrath Mage who is in huge trouble. Up shit creek, paddleless. Survives for now. Reese playing a bit of Ring Around a Rosie with these heroes. Probably only buying time at best. Tiny Airlines thrown in onto Reese. It's a 2 for 0 in the mid lane. And now that mid tower is going to be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt the effectiveness of the Tiny in these skirmishes, but in this first fight under the tower, he did find a double stun, double toss, which is a huge amount of damage. And then bringing Coral for this second fight allows them to dive under this tower for the heroes under the mid. As top lane, they find Tidehunter with, once again, this tiny rotation and Shira's all spells available. I think in the
One
bot
thing that's
lane,
worth knowing, though, in the midst of that fight, in the bot lane, the Battle Fury is picked up.
completed up for Fish.
An 11-minute Battle Fury.
Yeah, pretty nice. You're pretty happy as this top net worth jung in this game. You just telling your team don't feed too much to the Clinks and we'll be alright. And that might be the game plan for a bit.
They do have a bit to protect against the Clinks. I will say, we saw last game the Tidehunter has a struggle start as offlaners tend to this patch. But with that shard alone, the utility you get in terms of stopping a hero like Clinks from kind of juking and jiving is ginormous. And there goes the second use there of those mass serpent wards. And it seems like it's going to secure that last tier 3. So all 3 tier 3s taken out by this 13 minutes as well. But a TP comes out immediately onto the Ember Spirit. He jumps out, but he jumps back in. He presses the wrong remnant. Oh, Mr. Crest. Oh, that is unfortunate. The wrong remnant is pressed, and consequently he goes down here. And now forced to walk away here on the Tide as well. With an avoidable death and an unfortunate one to fall into.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the pressure as expected come out from the Skiddys supports, like dropping these wards on the towers, forcing these engagements, but Wongs are just finding these kills. I mean, with the dive onto the Viper, I think I mentioned previously that the Viper is going to get kited a bit, but they're going straight on top of him, they're going to him, and he's lapping it up.
Indeed, he is lapping it up, spitting it out with those poison attacks, really having a lot more kind of impact, I'd say, than he had last game. I want to give a quick shout out to the chat. Thank you so much to Flipper Dolphin, Sam Flipper, for throwing a prime into the stream. We appreciate your subscription, but don't appreciate how your team kicked a player last minute with no notice. What a bunch of scumbags those creep enjoyers guys are. Don't you agree? What a horrible team.
As a player who's been kicked, I agree.
Yeah, God, what absolute scumbags! That's why June Squad aren't playing in Div 2. Actually, we refuse to
They've
play
been demoted.
against Flipper Dolphin and his team of horrible folk.
A missed smoke move in the game we're currently watching from Wong's Bakery, but they're looking towards this bot tower.
Indeed, they are, and the Clinks has finished up that Desolator now, which means there's 2 effects of this item. One is that it does minus armor and damage, but there's another effect as well that people often underestimate. His bullets are now red. Very red.
Incredible.
And that's very intimidating, And consequently, down goes that bottom tower, that tier 1. Jump in now onto Solar Crest. He jumps out immediately with that remnant, drops off that big urn onto the Viper. Viper could still be in some trouble here. He needs to be a bit careful. They have the ult on the Skywrath and they are directly in front of him. He needs to stay well behind that tower if not to be caught. But in comes the smoke play. The backstab from the back of that portal. They're on top of Mr. Crest. He spots them now. The Wheel of Wonder comes out. So much damage being thrown his way. Does dodge some of it with a sleight of fist, but it's not going to be enough. Down goes Solar Crest, and now they're going to run an onslaught onto the rest of the team. Reese looking like he is up shit creek, pallowless. Out come the pew pews. One more right clicks, all it's going to take to kill him off here, and down he goes indeed. It's a 2-for-0 with nothing gained in advance except for the fact that Jug is still farming and is closing in on 10k.
Yeah, again, I think a misfire there on the Ringmaster ult. I've seen a couple of those now. I think Kamki unretiring, newly back to the game, so still warming up as Sky. Found in a creep camp. That's pretty deep to be, Sky, with your team just dying. And I think Wong's recognizing that with a round of tips.
I think Sky recognizes as well, dropping the XD in the all chat. Nice to see it kept nice and light.
And I said the Tiny might struggle making plays for this early mid game, but he's closing in on the blink pretty rapidly after these succession of successes that he's found.
Indeed. One thing to be said, though, I mean, the Juggernaut being this far ahead, is he in a position where he could play, that 1v5 style.
I don't think that's the case in this game. Like I said previously, his hero addresses the Viper pick, which is really being a nuisance in this middle period, but he's not really been involved. Like you said, he's been AFK farming his Battle Fury, and I think if Wongs maintain a lead, especially if the Klings can catch up after getting his farming item, then Jug might struggle in these fights to get involved.
In terms of the other core positions as well, Solar Crest is building once again towards that Sanj and Kaya, which will be very important in terms of his damage output. And the Tidehunter going for the Axe Rush again.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not seeing a BKB out of Solar, but potentially he just wants to go the Sanj Kaya and he thinks he can survive through the tiny combo that's going to be coming out.
Play
Snakes
comes out here.
dropped.
I hear those big snakes that dropped onto the big old Viper. Follow up with that root as well. Out comes the ult from the Skywrath Mage. Great save there with the box by the big,
Ravage.
oh, terrifying Boxman himself. The Ravage comes out, but it does nothing. It's a 2-for-0 so far. Teleport comes out from this Tidehunter. He does manage to get away, but that's not what you wanted out of that fight.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying repeatedly, like, Wong's winning the fights, but on the other side of the map, the Jug is farming. But Coral's not that far behind, and he's getting involved in most of these fights.
It stayed pretty solidly 2k behind for most of the games, but once these towers start melting to that Desolator, it's going to get closer and closer, and as I say that, we're now within 1.7k with that top tower falling. They really need to keep this advantage on this Juggernaut if they're going to be competitive in this game, and it feels like, despite the fact that they have that lead on their pause 1, the Ember and the Tidehunter just don't feel like threats right now, whereas even the pause 4 Maniac feels terrifying. Nice lucky have of the Sentry Ward there. Does spot that aggressive Tiny walking in, forcing him back, but so far, I think it's Wong's game.
Yeah, nice restraint there from Solar to not jump onto this Tiny when he was out of position. Like, just in case there's people behind him, it'd be pretty bad. Even though he looks like a juicy kill for a chains into Skywrath ult.
I think they're probably waiting out the time on the Tidehunter right now. We have 65 seconds to Ravage is back up. Never mind. They pop the smoke. They want to bring the smoke to them. They want to use the advantage that Juggernaut has right now. This could be a problem. If the Juggernaut gets off a good Battle Fury Omni Slash here, jump in immediately onto this big... Oh, Shaman. Shaman drops down the wards. Nice use there of the chains. But follow from Shirks is ginormous. They pop down Solar Crest immediately. They do kill off with a triple kill, though. Fish chops through every single one of them. The 1v5 is online, but now being clicked down by this Viper. Blink available in 1 or 2 seconds from the Primal Beast. Might be able to catch on to Fish, but he isn't. It ends up being a 3-for-3. And a fight that pushes that Juggernaut even further ahead than he already was.
What a perfect contribution from Fish. Actually finds an incredible angle into this fight on top of these cores. And just no invis ready for the Clinks to just completely dissolve that go from Fish. Ends up in a kill, so hugely important here from the Jug.
The other important thing of note I want to point out here is following that fight, if we get a re-engage here, the Tide will have Ravage, but we will not have an Omni Slash.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good for Skiddys.
Jerks might be in some trouble here, though. Could be in some trouble. Jumping again from Mr. Crest, and now he has the ult on top of Shooks. Down he goes, but Solar's dead again. As is Reese on the Skywrath. Maybe a bit too divide there, and now it feels so much harder to contest that Torrent.
And straight back to Wongs. I mean, both teams, I said it last game, it feels a bit throwy from both of them. They're feeling excited with the dives they're making. Just need to calm down a bit.
They end up getting the shard onto the Tiny there. A nice shard for farming and becoming one of those more utility carries, especially since he is building towards It looks like that Yule Scepter. So gonna get that online a lot faster now that he has this unlimited tree charge.
Yeah, great item against the Skywrath. Can dodge Ravage, annoy the Omni Slash usage, so a solid item all around this game.
Seems like the side of Skitties are still not quite done yet, though. They do have the Blink up on the Shadow Shaman now. That could make a difference in this next fight.
It's a nice item, but the only follow-up really there is going to be the Skywrath ult.
Who do you think is their entire go? Hang on.
Oh.
Stop here. Oh, no! Maniac! No! And there goes the tip onto him immediately. Oof, he's
Some
not
would
being
call
good.
that unlucky, I'd say, but a little bit of miscommunication there on the jump from Wongs.
I think you would call it unlucky. Maniac would call it Shirks' fault. And the entire of the chat will call it funny. And I think that's where we're at with that play.
Big smug move sweeping across the bot jungle, but once again, no one is here. Second time this smoke move has not turned anything up.
Indeed, and we actually see the Juggernaut is extending the lead over Klinks right now. Klinks, with all these smoke maneuvers, is actually falling even further behind. The Juggernaut now building into the butterfly. We saw last game when that big Broodmother got the butterfly, it felt like the Klinks did a hell of a lot less. And we're going to have to see this game whether that is also true. And meanwhile, the top lane, here it comes. A really good one too. They get the ideal initial target and he doesn't get off the Omni Slash. So this fight is now disastrous. Get the flock out of there. Make like a shepherd. Do not save your friends. Goodbye, Reese. Goodbye, Reese's dog. Both of them go down. Reese doing what he can to waste some time, throw an ulti out, but a really good backstab play there from the side of Wongs, and it catches the side of Skiddys completely unawares.
I'm so good I didn't start saying, wow, this Jug is completely 1v9ing, and he almost looks untouchable before that play happened, so that was good timing.
Excellent timing indeed, and it sets up for the Roshan now. They do have the Ravage, 10 seconds till Skywrath. I don't think they have the time to contest this.
Yeah, I mean, it's
unless
not the
Solar goes
fastest
to the
Roche I've
seal.
seen, but
doesn't feel like it.
Roche.
Seems like a free Roche.
That's what you like to see if you're Coral right now.
A big Aegis going into his back pocket here on the Klinks. Very scary indeed. 2 lives now on him, and now he's within 1k net worth of that Jugger. And now they've caught out the Tidehunter. He's hit up with that Primal Beast ult to follow up as well with that Avalanche. We see Klinks coming in from the right side. If he gets here, Sky has no way of staying alive. And here we go. Plonk, plonk. Down he goes.
Oh,
One more
shield.
right click. Oh, it's going to need. A tough game for Sky, you know, put onto the Tide in 2 games where it's a little bit tricky. But nice use here of the rat play here, going for that mid tier 2 with those wards.
Yeah, they might be able to trade this out for the bot tier 2.
Arguably the more valuable tower, but no, they walk away from it in the end there. They don't feel quite comfortable making the play they need to secure it. So they get a bit of damage onto that mid tower, but maybe not the follow-up. Hang on, Ember is staying there though, but the side of Wongs, they're pressuring in this bottom lane. They're standing on the high ground. They force out the fortify. It does help their mid push as well, to be fair.
Yeah,
so there is some double effectiveness going on here.
I think Wongs are just waiting next wave. They're going up.
Yeah, they're perfectly happy to do this. They do have that AoE gush from the Aghanims, from the Tide. They do get the Hex out, but really nice use there of the box to save him thereafter. The gush does still connect though, so the Klinks is forced back, almost dying in the proceeds, but does manage to walk away from that one in the end. Jug could be in some trouble here. Here comes that ult from the Primal Beast, and the follow-up with the Viper Strike and the Rock as well. Perfectly timed. The chain stunning from the side of Wongs. Every single spell used to perfection in that fight.
What a series of unfortunate events in terms of spell casting for the Juggernaut. One after the other they're battered about. And he might have a lot of damage on the Omni Slash, but it is still a very difficult game for his hero.
And a turning point here. Call me Charlie Kirk. Turning point game. The Klinks takes the top of the net worth lead here. And with
Yes.
that Clinks in the driver's seat, that looks a lot more scary. They were barely able to win these fights when the Juggler was 3k ahead. Now that they're even on parity, feels a lot scarier.
Lunatic on the back, but he gets hexed up.
Indeed, he does. Follow up with the shackles, but there's no follow up damage. Follow up. In comes Shirks with the BKB ult. I gotta say, Shirks, both games of this Primal Beast, absolutely slaying these games. And now the towers are in peril, being chopped down by the Viper and this Clink. So much damage here with those Skeleton Armatures. Down goes the tier 3, and the racks look like they're going to follow very quickly thereafter.
It's looking pretty good for Wongs at this point. I would say, yeah, Shirok's performing pretty well on this Primal Beast. That demo mode warm-up we saw him do before these games, clearly paying off.
Very much so. They're doing what they can to force back the side of Wongs here, but it
Another
looks
jump
like a
from
second
Lunatic.
barracks is just entirely free here. Lunatic does go down.
Space created though, they find the
Solar's
racks.
going in. He does manage to get the route out onto Kamki, but that's not enough for losing 2 barracks. They are going to get the Ringmaster, but that's all they're going to get out of the back of this one. And he does drop that Swift
The
Slash
Swift
onto him.
Slash.
He actually delayed the Butterfly to go for the Aghanims first.
Yeah, I think it was a necessary pickup for him. Like I said, his difficulty playing these fights is the entry. So with the Swift Slash, he's got a bit of a better jump for himself. Now his biggest issue might be getting out of the fights. Um, so I could be convinced about a BKB for the Jug this game really, but it's pretty tough against the Primal Beast and Viper saying you need a BKB.
The illusion strat there catching the side of Skiddys Angels. They pop the dust, revealing their smoke, so now the entirety of Wongs know they are there, and they still do have the Aegis here on the Clinks.
Not for much longer, 30 seconds.
Smoke comes out from the side of Wong's Bakery. They want to use that Clink's secondary life, but recognizing this, the side of Skiddies have dealt to split it to every corner of the map to get away, but not Reese.
He's scared, he didn't want to pick up the illusion rune. And rightly so.
The impulse control is there, but Sky as well could be in some trouble here.
Another
He
jump from
does manage to
Lunatic.
get caught out. TP away immediately from this Skywrath Mage, but Sky dies immediately thereafter.
Look at this wave of couriers coming back from the secret shop for Skiddy's Angels. And they
One of
almost
them
all
gets
get
caught.
sniped out. One of them dies.
Indeed, and now the final lane for Skiddies is being pushed in. They do still have that melee racks on the middle lane, but considering how fast this Clinks takes these towers with the follow-up of that Tiny, feels like it's almost a deja vu of the last game.
He's under a
They
ward
fall
on
so
Paid.
quickly, but on the opposite side now, jumping immediately onto Paid, who is struggling in both of these games, I have to say. And that is Mega Creeps. It might just be buyback now from the Shadow Shaman, jump in now from Solar Crest. They just walk away. There's no blink on Tide. There's no way to stop them from running away.
Yeah, a nice disengage. They might hold the high ground
So
here, looking for a
wasted buyback.
reinitiate.
It's definitely
Fish
a
has gotta be
possibility, especially the
careful.
Juggernaut showing first. Fish is playing very far forward, and there goes again the use of that ultimate. He does get
Ravage.
off the big Omni Slash, but it's not enough. The Ravage comes out, the damage is onto Fish, and Fish is dead. There's nothing he can do here, and Solar Crest also dead. Wicked Sick 3 for 0 in this fight. GG is called 2-0 to Wong's Bakery in the opening game of this league.
Oh well, a nice start for Wong's Bakery. I think a bit different to the last few leagues that we've seen them play, where it's been a shaky start for them, knocked down to the lower bracket in the first few matches, or at least in the bracket stage, or in the main stage. In this round robin stage for IDL 6, a nice cheeky start for them against one of the higher MMR teams in Div 1.
Nice to see them gracious in victory as always at the end screen, saying keep playing against Imprint and you should disband like North. So it's good to see the boys haven't changed, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the level of banter that you kind of tend to expect from a Wong's Bakery game at this point.
Indeed, it is. Now, we'll be willing to see if that is still the case by the end of the season. It's worth noting as well, Wongs did 2-0 the previous iteration of Skiddys Angels and then fell to them in a knockout game. But that being said, Wongs looking incredibly impressive today.
Yeah, and I hope they continue this energy through the season. Depending on if Kamki is sticking around for the whole season, we'll see how that pans out. But looking pretty cohesive there. As far as Skiddy's Angels, I mean, this game one was certainly a better performance for them than this game two. I think potentially just draft wise, I couldn't really see, even with this top net worth jug, how they'd uh, like bring this game back into their control. Um, so maybe slightly less uh, fan of a fan of their game two draft than their game one, but still a close game one. So further down the line after the round robin stage, I'll be looking forward to seeing maybe a rematch of this series.
Indeed. And folks, just to inform you on what's going on in other games right now, in the Cavan Crash game, it appears they had quite a significant lead in their game. And are likely to win it by a significant margin. So elsewhere, Irish Joe 2 games still going on, folks. We'll have a few more games coming to you soon. That is us for this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Particular thank you to everyone who subscribed tonight. We really do appreciate you. Help us do what we do. We are a community-led organization. Nobody makes any money here, folks. So we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely evening. We'll catch you later.
Good night.